Councillor McBurty attended yesterday's meeting despite his suspension, and it was subsequently adjourned until Monday, February the 21st. Sinn Féin Council members held a meeting after yesterday's developments, and Councillor Jerry Mcgarrigal says the lack of progress being made on important issues is creating anger among members of the public.
We had many major issues to discuss. MICA was not discussed, our housing crisis was not discussed, the wind energy plan. Nothing of any meaningful importance to the people of this county was allowed to go ahead because of the antics of one man. We note the extreme and justifiable anger that the people of Donal feel when they see our council fail to proceed on issues of importance, and we're expected to act on it. But unfortunately, the behaviour was totally unacceptable.
Meanwhile, Donegal County Council is being urged to investigate all possible flood mitigation solutions for the River Swilly. The river runs through the heart of Letterkenny, with concern that some of the nearby lands may be prone to flooding in the future if action is not taken. The issue is to be raised at today's sitting of the Letterkenny Milford Municipal District by Councillor Michael McBride. He says it's imperative that Letterkenny is not stripped of valuable development lands and that the local authority do everything it can to combat flooding going forward.
That would make sense for the development of Letterkenny, the development of the IT, which is going to be a technological university, that we would look at maybe other solutions. Some of the solutions I think that we could look at is if we feel there is some risk of flooding, that car parking could be put on the ground level, student accommodation, and that put up and higher on second and third, fourth floors, etc. in that area.
Weather now: sunny spells and scattered showers of rain, sleet and some snow over hills and mountains today, with highest temperatures of 7 to 9 degrees. That's all from Highland Radio News for now. We'll be back with news again at 10 o'clock. Until then, good morning.
This is an important announcement from the Department of Social Protection. If you have been in receipt of the COVID-19 pandemic unemployment payment and are now returning to work, this message is for you. You must ensure that you stop your payment on your first day back at work. The simplest way to do this is online at www.mywelfare.ie. For more information, visit gov.ie/DSP COVID-19, brought to you by the Government of Ireland.
Today's show is sponsored by the 3-Store Bungrana. Visit us in store for the best deals on high-speed home broadband and more. 3 for a better connected life.
And a very good morning to you. It's the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio. It's Donal Kavanagh with you until 12 noon today. As always, we have a varied array of guests lined up to speak to, but most importantly, we are welcoming and asking you to send in your comments, your perspectives and your views on the issues of the day, or indeed the issues you would like to see raised on the programme. You can do so by texting us on 086 60 25000. That number is good for WhatsApp messages as well. You can call us on 074 91 25000, 0035 91 25000 if you're outside of the dialing area. Caroline Orr is producing and taking your calls this morning. We're at Highland Radio on Twitter, we're Highland Hub on Facebook, and we're on other social media platforms as well. You can email us comments at highlandradio.com, and we are of course broadcasting the show live on Facebook and also live on the Highland Radio YouTube channel, so when we take in interviews on Zoom you can listen to what's happening with those as well. It's Tuesday morning, it's the 8th of February, and we're going to begin with the papers this morning. The Donegal People's Press. The main headline: hidden gem, little known woodland estate on the shores of Donegal Bay, has the potential to be a flagship project in the county's outdoor recreational strategy. The McManus Estate, which is just a few miles west of Donegal town at Rossilongan Forest, is a true hidden gem, we're told. A story about that on the front of the People's Press. Also there, motion passed with Gardaí in council chamber. Donegal County Council's January meeting was in a state of stalemate yesterday afternoon over the suspension of Councillor Frank McBurty from the council. The meeting was adjourned until February 21st after councillors voted to take High Court proceedings against Councillor McBurty. That motion was passed with Gardaí present in the chamber. Gardaí had been called after an incident outside the Oral Leisure Centre where the meeting was taking place. That's the start of Declan McGee's story there, more on the inside of the People's Press. I was at that meeting myself, and Declan's story, a very, I think, accurate and fair outline of what happened. The front of the Derry Journal this morning, Laura Glenn writes, a low day for the council. That's a quote from the Cathaoirleach councillor Jack Murray, who described yesterday, Monday, as a low day for Donegal County Council. He was speaking after the council initiated High Court proceedings against Councillor Frank McBurty to enforce a suspension which had been agreed last week. The co-option of Fine Gael's Johnny McGuinness, who is to take his late father Bernard's seat in Inishowen, did not once again take place. Now, Johnny McGuinness had been online at the previously adjourned meeting the week before. Yesterday, he was there. He arrived, and I indeed spoke to him and pre-recorded an interview with him outside of the centre before he went in. In the event, the co-option didn't happen, so the interview is on hold until the co-option does happen. Councillor McBurty had again questioned the sanctions in a statement before the meeting, saying if the reasons and laws for his suspension were not outlined, he would attend the meeting. And he said if the sanctions were not lifted, he'd be considering his council seat and also considering legal proceedings. And there was a number of interjections from the floor from Councillor McBurty over the course of proceedings yesterday. And to be honest, we were in the what we'll call the chamber, in the main room at the Ora Leisure Centre. We were there, I would say, for about 2.25 to 2.5 hours, and if the council actually sat for 8 minutes over the course of that period, that's as long as the actual council sat for. It convened and adjourned immediately on 2 occasions, and then there was a vote taken at the end, and that's the only business done. So we are in a situation where the minutes of the November meeting have still not been passed. There is a whole body of work that was to have been agreed at the end of January. That hasn't been looked at all as of yet. We have that co-option that we referenced. There's also a number of very important issues, not least of which, and it was referenced by Councillor Jerry Mcgarrigal in the piece he did with Michaela for News, that we have a situation where there is a very important wind energy debate has been going on in this county, and there are clauses pertaining to wind energy and how wind energy and windmills are to be governed in the county development plan. That's been under discussion. That's to go out to public consultation before it can be put into a plan and passed and enforced. That consultation has again been delayed. And we know from what we saw in Mean Bog, what can happen when, you have issues with wind farms. And it's a very important issue, and just one of many important issues which are up for discussion, which cannot proceed any further because of what's been happening and because of the stalemate that pertains in the council at the moment. And certainly it's an issue that we may see resolved on Monday week, but we wait to see what happens. As we understand it, the Chief Executive was to lodge those papers with the High Court yesterday, so I believe officials and councillors are hoping that they may get some form of response from the High Court by Monday of next week, but they adjourned for 2 weeks just to give time for those issues and proceedings to go through the courts. And while they're going through the courts, obviously we will not be discussing them in any detail, because it is now for the courts to adjudicate and to decide. The front of the Irish Independent this morning: Gardaí use CCTV to identify suspects in vicious burglary hunt for gang as farmer 73 fights for his life after attack. And we heard the story yesterday of Tom Nyland, who's been in hospital and whose condition has deteriorated significantly in recent days following that attack at his home in Screen, County Sligo, on January 18th. It's understood that Gardaí have made significant progress and a number of suspects may have been identified. Also on the front of the Irish Independent, Coveney orders inquiry into Army barracks party. Defence Minister Simon Coveney has ordered an independent investigation into an alcohol-fuelled COVID-19 party at an Army barracks, which resulted in several senior officers being reprimanded. An alleged sexual assault of an on-duty female soldier by an off-duty male officer who attended the gathering is currently being investigated, we're told, by military police. Front of the Irish Times this morning: dozens of soldiers at social event during lockdown. The same story: Minister for Defence orders external review of McKee Barracks barbecue. Gathering took place outside Defence Forces COVID Task Force headquarters. And also on the front of the Irish Times this morning: insurance lobby attacks motor industry inquiry. Brokers Ireland claims anti-competitive report is intended to sully its reputation. Also on the front: tax cuts unlikely in planned package of income supports. The prospect of tax cuts as part of the government's cost of living package is receding ahead of key meetings this week. Irish Daily Mail this morning: families spending less on shopping. Soaring inflation forces pinched consumers to switch to TV dinners and supermarket brands. Families are ditching branded goods and spending less to counter soaring inflation. Latest research shows Tesco, Lidl and Aldi own brands are spiking in sales as people try to evade the highest food inflation in more than 20 years. Now, in my experience, in many cases, supermarket-owned brands are every bit as good as the major branded products. And, I certainly would not be one to look down on supermarket-owned brands. In fact, there are certain products in which I think the supermarket-owned brand is better, or nicer, or more to my taste. And that's a fact of life these days, and it looks like it's going to become even more so as inflation continues to rise and the cost of living really begins to dominate many discussions. Front of the Irish Daily Star this morning, the soaring 20s crack of the net. Ireland is in the running to host Euro 2028 matches, and Euros hero Ray Houghton says he couldn't be happier about the Anglo-Celtic bid. It's another boost to Ireland's COVID recovery, and it's also been confirmed that St Patrick's Day festivities will return in March and will be the biggest ever. And also on the front of the Irish Daily Star, Tom, how am I ever going home? That's the question that he asked in hospital after thugs left him fighting for his life. He remains in a critical condition. The Irish Daily Mirror this morning, we will never give up. Fight goes on for girl who didn't come home. The heartbroken family of Amy Fitzpatrick voted last night to never give up in the fight to trace the missing Dublin woman. She was just 15 when she vanished from Spain's Costa del Sol in 2008. Her dad Christopher had a poignant message for Amy on her 30th birthday yesterday, while her aunt Christine said she should be here. She was a lovely girl. Front of the Irish Sun. It should be us. And that's a couple's lotto nightmare. That story is on the inside. And there's also an exclusive shock video. Prem Star's vile attack on cat. Premier League ace Kurt Zuma could be prosecuted after being filmed booting his cat like a football across his kitchen floor. And also Tom in a coma for just €600 and Army facing sex pic probe. They're the other two stories on the front of the Sun. That's the way the papers are looking this morning. As I said, if you would like to make contact with us about any of the issues that are exercising you at the moment and that you're taking an interest in, you can do so. You can text us on 086 60 25,000. That number good for WhatsApp messages as well. Call us 074 9125,000, 0035 374 9125,000 if you're outside of the area. And comments at highlandradio.com.
The newspapers are courtesy of Kelly Centra, Mountaintop, Letterkenny.
Celebrate the little acts of love this Valentine's with a special gift from Pandora. When you spend €79 or more, we'll treat you to a free charm worth up to €35 from a selection. But hurry, this offer won't be around for long. Offer ends Monday the 14th of February. Available in stores while stocks last. Terms and exclusions apply.
Are you cold in your home? A home reversion may help you keep warm this winter. Find out more at plus.ie or contact Advice First Financial, your local qualified financial advisor at advicefirst.ie. Home Plus, because retirement is for living. Residential Reversions Limited, trading as Home Plus, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland. Advice First Financial Limited, trading as Advice First, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Join us at the Silver Birch Hotel Oma for our wedding showcase on Sunday the 13th of February from 12 noon to 5 p.m. View our stunning Drumrath suite, meet local wedding suppliers, get wedding inspiration and talk to the Silver Birch wedding team. Don't miss our biggest wedding event of the year on Sunday the 13th of February at the Silver Birch Hotel Oma.
Looking for an easier way to get your prescriptions filled? Look no further. With our new Brennan's Pharmacy app, you have a simpler, faster way to manage your prescription orders. Just download the free Brennan's Pharmacy app from Google Play or App Store, fill in a few simple details about yourself and your medicines, and you're all set. From prescription ordering, daily medicine reminders, to messaging our pharmacy team directly, it's all at your fingertips with our new Brennan's app. Like to know more? Why not call your local Brennan's Pharmacy today for more information? We're here for you.
Highland Radio Time Checks, brought to you by Letterkenny Shopping Centre, the centre of shopping in Donegal. Free parking and shopping all under one roof. Letterkenny Shopping Centre, bringing you the time at...
It's just approaching 18 minutes past 9 o'clock.
Today's show is sponsored by the 3-Store Bungranna. Visit us in store for the best deals on high-speed home broadband and more. 3 for a better connected life.
There is a debate on single-sex education, particularly in the secondary sector, but across all sectors of education. And the Labour Party in particular is moving legislation to seek the scrapping of single-sex schools within 10 to 15 years. But is there evidence to suggest that scrapping single-sex schools will improve educational outcomes? Well, we're joined on the line by Dr. Emer Smith. She's a research professor with the Social Research Division and Growing Up in Ireland Economic and Social Research Institute. Emer, good morning to you.
Good morning.
The question of single-sex education is one that you've looked into, and you have a perspective on this that's interesting, because the Growing Up in Ireland research means that you can actually track individuals over a long period, so you can come up with data that really has a basis in ongoing fact, as it were. Do you see any evidence that there is a difference between single-sex or multi-sex schools?
There's two things to say. First of all, that when you ask young people themselves, they would tend to favour co-education settings. So that's one aspect. But if you look at objective outcomes, once you take account of the fact that the profile of students going to single-sex schools is a bit different, tends to be a bit more advantaged, tends to be of higher prior achievement. Once you compare like with like, we actually don't see any differences in academic outcomes like junior leaving cert results. We don't see much difference in self-image, contrary to what you might expect. The one difference we found was that in girls' schools you tend to have a little bit less misbehaviour and less truancy than among girls in co-ed schools. But that's the only difference.
Is there an argument that says that these issues are issues that go beyond academic achievement, and if we limit this debate to academic achievement, we are really limiting the debate to an extent that's going to do with disservice to everyone? Because there have been suggestions, for instance, that those who are in a mixed school and a co-ed school will have more balanced experiences, will have more balanced views, will have more experience, and perhaps we'll see less of the gender-based issues and problems that we have seen in this country, particularly in recent times.
Well, what seems to be the case is really that gender differences are pervasive, regardless of whether we're talking about single-sex or co-ed schools. So that the gender difficulties and gender inequalities that we're seeing are broader, they're societal, they're not just related to school type. We've looked at much broader outcomes than academic outcomes alone. We've looked at stress and mental health. We don't see any differences there. We don't see any differences in sexual behaviour amongst 17-year-olds or where they get their information about sex. So we've taken quite a comprehensive view of this, and we're not seeing the difference. I think it's important that the argument is based on, well, do you think it's a more natural setting? What would young people prefer? Rather than saying it's to do with improving or disimproving outcomes, because the evidence, is quite clear that other factors are at play.
Do you then believe that what the Labour Party are doing in the Dáil, trying to scrap single-sex schools, then is I won't say a lost cause, but perhaps isn't the most important issue that they could be tackling at the moment in the education sector?
I think the most important issue is educational disadvantage and the social differentiation in school mix and the implications that has for young people who are in schools with a concentration of disadvantage. I think that's really a priority in terms of where we see poor outcomes, effects not just on academic outcomes but on behaviour and so on.
In terms of the work you're doing within the context of the ESRI, the Growing Up in Ireland study is one which is an interesting one because, as it said, it's tracking people over a period of time. Talk to us a little bit about that research and about the sort of things you're finding from it.
Well, that would go beyond the gender issue, but it would certainly give us great insight into education disadvantage, for example, because we can trace kids from preschool into school and so on. And actually we see that, young people from more disadvantaged backgrounds who start school and they're doing really well in terms of vocabulary, that they fall behind as they get older. So we're seeing a lot of lost potential, if you like, from kids. On the gender issue, we're seeing that, the lives of boys and girls and young men and young women are very gendered. that their experience of school is quite different, but also their lives outside school. We're seeing quite a lot of difference in their social activities, their friendship networks. So it's really allowing us to see how inequalities develop and change as young people move from infancy really to young adulthood.
One of the major attempts to tackle disadvantage in the education sector in recent years has been the DESH programme. Is there evidence in what you're seeing to show that that's having any effect, that it's working at least in some way?
I mean, yes, I think the evidence is pretty positive on the DESH programme, but I think what our research shows that those schools with the urban DESH Band 1 schools, the ones with the real concentration of disadvantage, that the gap is quite significant there. So there would be a case for targeting more resources to those schools in particular. I think another thing our research shows is that you have to remember that not all disadvantaged children attend DESH schools, that over half of them are outside DESH schools. So they're not provided with support by virtue of their disadvantage. So we have to look maybe at kind of tapered provision, or to all schools to cater for those students.
And in a sense, you've almost preempted my next question, because I was going to ask you about the urban-rural divide in the work that you're doing in terms of the research. The thought among many people would be that there is going to be more options in an urban setting, and particularly in a big city there'll be more options to, say, go for Educate Together or go for the school of choice, where if you're in a rural area, if you're in a smaller town, you don't have as much choice. Is there evidence from the work that you're doing that there is a difference between urban and rural, and even small town and large town stroke city?
I think what you find is there is more choice in urban areas, but that actually results in more differences between schools and their intake. What has been found by ourselves and also by the Education Research Centre has been that in rural areas the effects of the concentration of disadvantage isn't as great. So it could be the case that you have low-income families, but the educational levels or the access to educational resources might be greater, so the outcomes aren't as severe as in those kind of very deprived urban areas. We haven't looked so much at the small town, larger town issue, but that isn't emerging clearly from the research.
And finally, in terms of education, two of the most important developments over the course of the past 10, 15 years in particular, and indeed it's been growing for longer than that, has been Gaelscoileanna and the Educate Together programme. To what extent are they having an impact on educational trends, and to what extent do you believe they're potentially changing the system?
They're growing sectors, but we still have to remember that they're a very small proportion of all schools. So in terms of educational policy, I think we need to be looking at not just type of school, but big ticket items like senior cycle reform, like the new wellbeing agenda, which is to be welcomed in schools, issues around mental health, especially in the wake of the pandemic. So I think there are issues that apply across all types of schools, and I think they're the ones that we should be focusing on in policy terms.
Dr. Emer Smith, of the ESRI Research Professor and working with the Social Research Division, and particularly on the Growing Up in Ireland research programme. Thank you very much indeed for speaking to us this morning.
Thank you very much.
Highland Radio.
Your voice, your station.
Just a few of your comments that have been coming in. Why are those councillors and executive members, which Councillor Mcgarrigal is referring to, not stepping aside until the allegations are proven or rejected in court to allow the work of the council to continue? That's one question being posed by a caller. Caller says, I know Frank Mcgarrigal doesn't always conduct himself well, but he's being slammed for trying to get the truth. Caller says, Donal, if you were to get your house retrofitted at approximately 50,000 at the age of 60, it's like another mortgage. And certainly it is an issue, because the government is looking at assisting in retrofitting and assisting in providing the money for it. But certainly it is a huge cost to be taking on, particularly at that age. We would need a bus for the evenings to get out and about, says the caller. Taxis cost too much for nights out around rural Donegal. And there have been some innovative transport schemes run. Certainly some publicans have been running sort of local buses themselves, and organising lifts and so on and so forth, and there have been some, and of course we have to say, in fairness, the Rural Link Transport Service has been doing great work. But yeah, there certainly is an issue for sort of travelling in Donegal at night, particularly for socialising. Caller says, it's nice to hear from a Fianna Fáil TD that's on over €1,000 a year to tell us to stop complaining about the cost of living. I presume that's a reference to the Junior Minister Sean Fleming, who said people should, rather than complaining, people should be shopping around a bit more. Fair point. Caller says, what do I do in this situation? I fell in my kitchen at the end of June. I hurt my arm. I thought, give it time. But after 2 weeks, I went to a doctor and I was sent to Letterkenny Hospital, where an x-ray was taken. I was told it was okay. The swelling got worse. I went back to the ER and sat there from 5 p.m. to 11:30 to get another x-ray, to be told they still didn't see anything wrong. But I was referred to the fracture clinic a week later. When I went there and attended that clinic, I was told I had a bone in my wrist coming away from the socket and I needed to attend an orthopaedic surgeon in Galway. My appointment is in March. My wrist has got worse. Can someone please suggest what does one do under these circumstances? That's a question from a caller there. And if you have any perspective on that, we'd be delighted to hear from you.
Text 086 60 25,000.
For great fuel deals, contact Gortley Sales and Hire. Large sacks and trailer loads of logs. Also briquettes, coal, kindling and gas, with free delivery locally. Contact Gortley Sales and Hire in Letterkenny on 9126276.
Are you tired of waiting for treatment or surgery? Did you know you can receive immediate treatment across the border under the new NI planned healthcare scheme at potentially no cost? Donegal patients are still being treated with us at Kingsbridge Private Hospital Northwest post-Brexit. The process is easy and our dedicated team will help guide you through it. So why wait? Contact us today to find out how you can skip the waiting lists and receive treatment in Northern Ireland. Visit kingsbridgeprivatehospital.com, because life matters.
You can pick up all the ingredients for a great deal at Tesco Mobile, like the amazing Samsung Galaxy A52s 5G, free for just €30 a month on our bill pay plan. That's a saving of $149.99. Plus, you'll even get 99% network coverage. This is Supermarket Mobile. Tesco Mobile. Every little helps. Visit us in-store or search Tesco Mobile. T's and C's apply. 24-month contract payable by direct debit. 99% population coverage. See tescomobile.ie for full plan details and T's and C's.
Sheridan Security now introducing zero-wire smart alarm systems. Zero wire, zero mess, and a real peace of mind. With a simple press of a button, your alarm can be set or unset, or download the free app and control it from your phone. Call us today on 074 912 6025 and get your alarm from €299. Stay local, stay safe and protect what you value most with Sheridan Security Systems.
At 3, we have an amazing range of broadband offers to keep you connected. Switch to 3's high-speed home broadband for just €39 per month and get 3 months free with no upfront cost. Visit the 3 store Bongranna for this offer and more. Subject to coverage, T's and C's apply. Today's 9 till noon show is sponsored by the 3 store Bongranna. Visit us in store for the best deals on high-speed home broadband and more. 3 for a better connected life.
It's the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio. You may remember, you may have heard on the news a few months back that there were 40 national schools across the country taking part in a pilot programme as part of a process of reviewing and updating the primary school curriculum. And one of the 40 schools across the country that was taking part in that pilot programme was Ballymore National School in Donofanahy. Coach Nicaron is the principal there. Coach, good morning to you.
Hi Donal, how are you?
Very well indeed, thank you. Coach, it must have been interesting for yourself and the teachers at the school to be taking part in what potentially is going to be a very important programme in determining the direction of primary education into the future.
Absolutely. It has been a very interesting process. I suppose for us, we wanted to be involved from the ground because it is going to impact our work for the foreseeable future, the teaching and learning that goes on in our schools, and the experience that the children have and the families of our school community have, as I said, for the foreseeable future. So, we were delighted to take part and be involved in the process, and continuing our involvement in the process will be critical, I suppose, to what programme is laid out for us in the future.
I know you'll be slightly limited in what you can say about the things that you're doing and the programs that you're taking part in, but do you believe it's going in the right direction from the point of view of someone who's a principal, and obviously you've been a teacher and you've been in this education game at national school level for quite some time. Do you get the sense from what you've been doing over the past while that this is going in the right direction?
Yeah, I suppose if you think about the old curriculum, it came into place in 1999 and society has evolved and changed so much. Like the children are so into technology, and that is the future going forward. So there was a long overdue revamp of the curriculum needed. I do believe it is going in the right direction, but I do believe that everyone needs to have their say and participate in making sure that all voices are heard and ensuring that the curriculum that is rolled out matches what we do need in the society. But I definitely do feel it is a step in the right direction, and it is long overdue and much needed. You
and your teachers have been taking part in various workshops to plan the next phase now of where this is going, and I'm sure from the government's point of view, from the department's point of view, and from the curriculum organisers' point of view, your input's going to be vital here. Are you confident and satisfied that you're being listened to?
Yeah, and I suppose people might think, what has a small school in the northwest of Donegal got to add to it? But we are very different to the larger schools, perhaps in the city, where we're teaching multi-grade curriculums. We have various class groups in front of us, and we need a curriculum that works for us as well as a single-stream school. So I do feel that the ideas that are coming from all the different types of schools, the different setups, are being heard and are being taken into consideration with the planning that the NCCA are currently working on.
When will we see the new curriculum fully formed and in place?
It's going to be a long and slow process. The primary language curriculum that was launched a couple of years ago has, I suppose, been the start of the revamp of the curriculum, and that is still being phased in. So there's no kind of end in sight, I suppose, with the work. Once the consultation process closes, the NCCA will begin kind of collating all of the data and the information that they've received from the public, the schools that are working with them, and any other parents, teachers, or anyone that does want to participate. And then a report will be sent to the department, and then the department and the NCCA will begin working on rolling out the finished product on a phased basis, I imagine.
What impact has the pandemic had on this? Because obviously it's going to have affected education in general, but in terms of online learning, in terms of the optimal use of technology, could it be that we've learned things as a result of the pandemic and as a result of the directions the pandemic forced education to take that ultimately may actually inform how the curriculum develops, particularly in terms of IT and the use of the technology that you referred to earlier?
I suppose, yeah, every school has made great progress and leaps and bounds in terms of using technology for teaching and learning over the past few years. We had no choice but move online with online teaching and remote teaching. So everyone has upskilled immensely, and I do feel that will probably take away some of the fear factor of this new curriculum being kind of technology heavy and integration heavy, because we are so used to it now, and it's definitely what we need in our schools. The children are plugged in quite a lot, and they probably know more than us at the moment, but we are advancing, and I definitely do think that the curriculum and COVID has helped.
So it could well be that COVID has actually maybe sped up the bringing in of technology into this, because traditionally, I know certainly traditionally, having had and my youngest child was starting school in 1999 when the new curriculum was coming in, and so from that point of view, it's a long time since I've had skin in the game in any education sector, to be quite honest. But in terms of one of the worries always was when someone said the curriculum is changing, the immediate response was going to be, oh my God, here comes the cost of books going up again. And from that point of view, there was always going to be a worry there. When you bring in technology, you bring in the prospect of perhaps not having the heavy expenses of books that would have brought in, although you will have the initial cost of getting the mobile or the iPad or the tablet or whatever is being used. But once you have technology, you've maybe got the potential in some cases to move away from the books and maybe ease down on those annual costs of books.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose when the department kind of signs off on these proposals and the new framework, the next step would be increasing the funding that is available to make sure that every school can actually deliver what is being rolled out in the schools.
To what extent have you got the parents involved in this process, and to what extent have they been briefed on what's happening with this new curriculum, and have they been given the actual opportunity to say, well, from speaking to our children, this is our perspective as parents?
A lot of the work we've been doing is on the staff involvement, making sure that the staff have their voices heard. And there is opportunities for parents to get involved. The NCCA have focus groups for parents organised, and there's one coming up on February the 16th, and it's an online focus group where parents can get involved and have their say. We have been talking to the children about, changes they would like to see, and, if they were the Minister for Education, what would they bring in, just to get their kind of general stance on it. But as I said, once the consultation process closes, the framework, then we're kind of stuck with it, whatever the department roll out. So it's vital that people have their say, and all of the information, there's questionnaires, there's different things on the NCCA website. If you click on the Have Your Say tab, where anyone that wants to have their opinion or their voice included in the data can submit, or, as I said, take part in the online Zoom that's organised.
It certainly seems from what you've been saying too is that you and your staff have taken full advantage of the opportunity this gave you to ensure that your perspective was heard, and that your experience has been logged in terms of taking part in this process. From the point of view of the school, from the point of view of the staff, and indeed from the point of view of yourself as a principal, have you come out of this better? Have you learned from this? Do you believe that this has helped you in your career and in the way you're liaising and reacting both to the staff and indeed interacting with the children as well?
Absolutely. Like the conversations that it has generated in our staff, and we are only a small school, like if we had more staff in our school, I can only imagine the extent of the conversations and the skills and the curriculum or the professional development that has come out of it as well, because we're looking at what we're doing at the moment and seeing how we could slot in the new curriculum with it. So we are integrating more subjects together. We are, working on technology and improving ourselves there as well, and giving the children better experiences. So even though the new curriculum is not here, from what we've been reading and learning about it and discussing about it, we are trying to incorporate that into what we're doing at the moment. So we're kind of getting a bit of a taster session in our own planning and in our own teaching and learning in the classroom.
Coach, it's great to hear that it's been a success from your point of view, and that Ballymore has taken full advantage of the opportunities that it gave, and it's good to know that Ballymore's perspective is being heard at national level. It's the NCCA, the National Council for Curriculum and Assessment. Their website, again, it's ncca.ie, and people can go there and actually make their own views known, and they too can take part in this process.
Absolutely. There's a tab at the top of the website, Have Your Say, and if they click on primary and they look at the consultation process, they'll see the draft framework, they'll see all of the information, and there's a questionnaire that they can fill in, or they can register for the online Zoom that's taking place on the 16th of February.
No, Coach Corona, hopefully this new curriculum as it develops will be a success, and you, your staff and your children at Ballymore National School can look at it in years to come and think to yourselves, yes, we played a part in actually making that work. Thanks indeed for speaking to us this morning.
Mina Wakers, thanks a million.
Mina Wakers, that's Coach there, the principal of Ballymore National School in Dunfanaghy, and a very, very important project to be involved in there. Just want to let you know that we've had notification that major works will take place on Station Roundabout in Letterkenny tonight between 7 p.m. and 7 a.m. The works are required to carry out emergency repair works to the sewer network on Station Roundabout. Now, as a result, temporary traffic management will be in place for the duration of those works. Irish Water and Donegal County Council Water Services are apologising for any inconvenience caused by the works. So if you live around the town, and you will be driving in through the town or its environs this evening, if you know the area, maybe best to just keep Station Roundabout out of your planned routes completely, and take an alternative route, and just minimise the amount of traffic that's heading down toward the roundabout, so that when people get themselves into the, and I'm sure most people will sort of know what the alternative routes would be to avoid the roundabout, but especially for those who don't know the area as well as residents do, no harm just to steer well clear of Station Roundabout between 7 p.m. and 7 a.m. tonight. It's the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio. Just a few of your comments, and this is one that came in yesterday. My son was accused of driving away from a petrol station without paying. we were contacted by Gardaí and we were in shock. Further to our own investigation, and this comes from the lad's father, we discovered he'd only bought the car 2 weeks previously, and the incident had happened 2 weeks previous to that. So effectively this happened 4 weeks after the incident. Now, we had to call the person he bought the car from, and we got it sorted ourselves. The person who was driving the car, who was the previous owner presumably, then paid. I just think it's the most basic of policing to check the registered owner of the vehicle matches with the date of the incident. When we contacted the Gardaí, they were very dismissive and refused to apologise for the anxiety that they put us on. And we have registered a complaint with the Ombudsman. It seems to me 4 weeks is a long time between the alleged incident happening and Gardaí actually calling to the house. Now, this actually happened, and I will tell you this genuinely happened to someone close to me that I was living with some years ago, quite a few years ago actually. It happened, and they were driving to Dublin early in the morning, and they stopped at a station. They put in some fuel. They went in. They bought whatever, a bag of crisps and a soft drink or whatever. And they went and they paid for that at the till. And then they left and they drove away and just forgot in the moment that they had got fuel. Gardaí called at the house that afternoon. And, immediately it was, oh God, I'm so sorry, went down, sorted it immediately, everything was fine. There was no problem. But that literally, within a matter of hours, and we know that there are CCTV cameras on forecourts, so I don't know, I would have thought 4 weeks between the incident and the visit seems, on the face of it, to be a long time. But it's a terrible thing to feel that you're being accused of something, and I do certainly feel for the people involved there. The problem of illegal and thoughtless parking is happening in every town and village in the country. You may recall we spoke yesterday to Councillor Terry Crossan about the situation in Muff. Now, as it happens, I was speaking in person to Councillor Crossan yesterday afternoon because we were both in Ora Leisure Centre for that aborted meeting of Donegal County Council, and he told me that he was travelling, he was picked up to get to Letterkenny. I think it was Councillor Albert Doherty, his colleague from Carn, picked him up, and as they were driving through Muff on their way to Letterkenny for that council meeting, he said he counted at least 2 and possibly more cars parked on the footpath in Muff, blocking the way. So he said, and one of them in the very area that we were just talking about on the programme yesterday morning. So it obviously is an ongoing issue. Now, today is Safer Internet Day, and we're going to be discussing that with our next guest after this short break.
In this week's RTE Guide, Home of the Year's Hugh Wallace on the personal challenges he has faced. Joanne McNally on going from lockdown to Salé Tour success. Plus our free Home and Interiors magazine, packed with tips, trends and ideas for your home. Everything and more. RTE Guide, on sale now.
Win the VIP matchday experience with Cadbury. Enter online for your chance to win. The luxury hotel with the chauffeur meet and greet a football legend, topped off with a pair of side boots.
With thousands of vouchers also to be won, search Cadbury. Win a day in their boots. T's and C's apply.
At Cherrymore Kitchens and Bedrooms, we are now operating out of one new state-of-the-art showroom in Donegal Town. And we invite you to visit our new 5,000 square foot Donegal Town showroom to discover the latest eye-catching designs. Remember, at Cherrymore, you're dealing directly with the manufacturer, which means high-quality kitchens at factory prices. Start planning your dream kitchen or bedroom by calling Cherrymore on 074 9725 822. Cherrymore, 25 years delivering value, quality and service all over Ireland.
For confirmation and First Communion, see the great selection of suits, casual wear and footwear at Watson Menswear, Letterkenny. Top brands, including 1880 Club, Lyle & Scott, Farah and Diesel. Also Tommy Bow footwear, and all at great prices. Whatever the fit, whatever the style, confirmation and First Communions are covered for less at Watson Menswear. Open 7 days a week on Main Street, Letterkenny, and at watsonmenswear.com. Also, great end of sale bargains still available.
Highland Radio weather updates with Ireland West Airport. Thinking of a sun holiday this summer with the family? Fly to Alicante, Malaga, Faro, Mallorca and Milan with Ryanair. Ireland West Airport, you're flying.
Mcgarrigal tells us there'll be sunny spells and scattered showers of rain, sleet and some snow over hills and mountains today. Highest afternoon temperatures 7 to 9 degrees Celsius in moderate to fresh, occasionally gusty southwest winds. Scattered showers along the coast will occasionally penetrate inland. Lowest temperatures tonight of 1 to 3 degrees Celsius, coldest around dawn with some frost and icy patches possible. Light to moderate southwest to west winds increasing fresh to strong and gusty. Tomorrow there'll be some sunny spells with scattered showers around coastal areas, some of sleet and possibly snow on hills. Highest temperatures 5 to 7 degrees Celsius in fresh to strong and gusty southwest to west winds.
Today's show is sponsored by the 3 Store Bungrana. Visit us in store for the best deals on high-speed home broadband and more. 3 for a better connected life.
This is the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio, and today is Safer Internet Day. And delighted to be joined by Jane Mcgarrigal, who's an author at Webwise. Jane, good morning.
Morning, Donal. Thanks for having me on, and happy Safer Internet Day.
And the same to yourself. And Jane's with us on Zoom, so if you have access to YouTube or Facebook Live, you can watch this conversation as well as listening. The glory of the multimedia age brought to life in glorious Technicolor. Jane, Safer in Internet Day, it's an important one because, you know, the internet is such a part of our lives, but as well as being such a boon to us in recent years, it does have a dark side, and that's something that we always have to be aware of.
Absolutely. So today, Safer Internet Day, what it is actually, it's a really brilliant opportunity to bring children, teens, schools, families and the wider community together to raise awareness about important issues affecting children and young people online. We know the internet is an integral part of our children's lives, and this year we're encouraging families to sit down together to talk, to listen, to learn using our new resources. And a big part of our campaign this year is we brought together a panel of experts from the National Parents Council, Professor Brian O'Neill, Deputy Chair of NACOS, and Dr. Coleman Noctor to discuss some key findings around what's going on for children online. And one of those key findings is actually a lot of children don't tell when something goes wrong online. So what that's brought up from our discussions is that parents need more supports in this area, and we need more research in this area. And that's not all that's happening today. It's a big day in schools. Actually, over 170,000 children from across Ireland, and many of those are in schools in Donegal, are taking part in Safer Internet Day today. They're doing lessons, they're engaged in activities. And we're seeing some brilliant initiatives happening. Schools are looking at topics like body image, cyberbullying, privacy, image sharing, Coco's Law, and many more. And I suppose what that's telling us is we know that this is an important issue for our schools and for our communities, and everyone is keen to do something about it. So today really is a wonderful opportunity for us to shine a light on that.
Sometimes you hear the perspective that, people panic about the internet and parents panic about the internet, and it isn't the big problem that sometimes all the doom mongers make it out to be. But it's a concern that your research suggests that parents actually underestimate the risks to which their children have been exposed to in the past year.
Absolutely. That is what the research is telling us, and that's kind of consistent findings. So there's a bit of gap in perception between what parents understand is going on online and what children, and what is actually happening children, the risks they are facing. So in terms of that, what we need to do is we need to be able to better support families, better support parents. And actually, we've spoken to a lot of young people this year for our campaign. And I think this is really nice to hear from young people. They've told us they don't expect their parents to be perfect in this area, but they do recognise that they need more support. So for any of your listeners watching today, we have developed a brilliant suite of tools to give families more confidence, to open up those conversations, to keep the conversations going. There's a list of talking points, and this resource was actually written by our youth panel in consultation with over 100 teens from across Ireland. So these are conversation starters for parents to use with their teenager, and they're written by teens. So they cover off very relevant topics for teens, and they allow those conversations to be done in an open, safe way. And we also have a brilliant topic generator tool. So why not sit down this evening, visit our website and use the topic generator tool. It'll serve you up as a family a range of different internet safety questions, like what's your favorite app, or what would you do if something happened online, or how can you tell if something's true online? Another big topic, false information. And what that allows families to do is talk about this, I suppose, free from judgment, free from criticism, and free from pointing fingers. And I suppose it normalizes it.
And vitally important too that it's a two-way conversation, because if a child perceives they're being lectured to by their parent, particularly on something like online and the internet, about which, as you've rightly said, in most cases the children know far more than the parents actually do. If the child sort of perceives that they're being lectured to, I mean, you know, it's you're on a hiding to nothing on that one. The conversation's got to be two ways. There's got to be listening as well as talking.
Yeah, absolutely. So some of the things, I suppose, the advice we give to parents when approaching a conversation, avoid a critical eye. We want our children to feel comfortable that they'll be able to come to us with a problem. So we don't want to demonize the internet. You know, we only have to look at the last 2 years, the lifeline the internet has been for us. And actually going online for most people, for most young people, is a positive, useful experience. So we do need to recognize that. And children and teens see the internet as a very important part of their lives. You know, talking with their friends, finding out things, learning things, creating things. So we need to respect that as well. And I suppose the other thing, you know, if your child comes to you with a problem, be open, listen, and help them find a solution. So try not to maybe overreact. We can, you know, there can be a tendency to do that, and that is very natural. But we want to ensure that children will come to us, or teenagers will come to us when we have when they have a problem online.
Another finding of your research was that less than half of parents are aware that their children have in fact experienced what you refer to as contact and conduct risks. And that's something that, you know, is going to be an issue of concern. And there's always the fear of so-called grooming and the fear that somehow their children may be involved in conversations online that they believe to be innocent, but can be anything but.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is probably one of the most common concerns parents will tell us they have. And actually, when we look at the research, what the research does tell us is that the most common, risks or harms children do encounter online will be cyberbullying, or being excluded from groups online, from chats online, or encountering inappropriate content online. And I suppose one piece of advice we would give families today and parents, you can help set your child off in the right direction in terms of what content they're accessing online. Help them kind of curate a healthy, positive newsfeed or search algorithm, so you can sit down together and maybe find things together that your child is interested in, or, you know, people to follow. So that will ensure they're kind of in a safer space online as well.
One key tip that's being offered by yourselves is that, you know, children should be encouraged on no account should they ever reply to unwanted or unsolicited messages.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's been the advice for a long time now. And, you know, I think that is a message that is being very well received by children and young people. There's certain areas of online safety where children are kind of a lot more up to date in. It's the more emerging issues, and I suppose maybe things like cyberbullying that we still need to address more as well. But we are, I suppose, pleased to see that those messages are sinking in as well.
And there's opportunities here too. For instance, even something as if you're going on a family holiday, you've now got the opportunity to sort of sit down at a computer or a laptop or whatever with the children, look at videos of the area, look at potential activities to do, look at the geography of the area, and actually go on an exploration where it becomes something very real, and it's something the family can share, do it online, and then go and do it in reality when the holiday comes.
Absolutely. The joys of technology, it brings so many opportunities. And that's you brought up another really good point. you know, families can kind of bridge the gaps by sitting down together and engaging in these sorts of activities together as a family. Or, for example, if you, like me, struggle to understand what TikTok is, and your teenager is using it, sit down this evening with them, ask them to show you it. You know, maybe they have some favorite dances or content they want to show you. And again, you're normalizing that conversation and you're making it more open. So hopefully in future, that if anything does come up, you can have a chat about it openly, and your child will feel comfortable.
Jane Mcgarrigal, author at Webwise, thanks indeed for speaking to us today. It's Safer Internet Day, and some very important tips and perspective there from Jane. Jane, thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Donal.
Thank you. And you can look at Webwise and other resources for more information and for more advice as well. But today is, as Jane said there, Safer Internet Day. And it's a lot of things happening in schools, but there's a lot of things, as Jane said, can be done in the home as well. Right, it's just coming up to 2 minutes to 10 o'clock. News with Michaela coming up after this break.
Discover the Dunnes Stores app and put better value at your fingertips. Tap to browse all our latest grocery offers. See all your 10 off 50 grocery vouchers stored in one place. And scan your Value Club card to earn points. All within the app, saving you time and money. Plus, download the app today and you'll receive a one-time 10 off 30 welcome voucher. Dunnes Stores, always better value. Terms and conditions apply. Welcome voucher can be used on next grocery shop of €30 or more.
Is your water safe to drink? If your water tastes unpleasant or has a foul smell, it may be a sign that something is in your water. Brothers Tech Donegal provide a complete private well water treatment service using the best water treatment equipment to meet your needs. Or maybe you drilled a new well and the water isn't satisfactory. At Brothers Tech, their expert team will also service existing problematic systems. If you're concerned about the quality of your water, call Brothers Tech on 087 638 7057.
Every once in a while, something comes along that's different, makes us reassess, consider our own thoughts. That's why Cupra was created. And it's how we conceived the Formentor e-hybrid. Drive another way with electric power. Move another way with the performance of a petrol engine. The Cupra Formentor e-hybrid. Contact your Cupra specialist at Connolly's Cupra Sligo, Collooney, County Sligo. Search Cupra.
With everything from pedal and electric ride-ons to go-karts and scooters, there's loads of fun guaranteed all year round at Tinny's Toys. If you've a kid's birthday coming up, Tinny's Toys can help make it special or get snow ready with a sleigh. Visit Tinny's Toys on Leck Road, Letterkenny, or shop online for express delivery at tinnystoys.com. Tinny's Toys, with so much more than just farm toys.
At 3, we have an amazing range of broadband offers to keep you connected. Switch to 3's high-speed home broadband for just €39 per month and get 3 months free with no upfront cost. Visit the 3 store Bongrana for this offer and more. Subject to coverage, T's and C's apply.
Live, on air, online and on the Highland Radio app. This is Highland Radio News.
Good morning, I'm Michaela Clark with the news at 10 o'clock. The Environment Minister says a new retrofit scheme is the best way of tackling rising energy costs. The €352 million scheme will see grants of €25,000 made available for full retrofits, covering half the cost. The government will also cover up to 80% of the cost of smaller projects like insulating an attic. Speaking on his way into Cabinet, Minister Eamon Ryan says it'll help bring down energy bills.
This new 80% grant for an attic and wall insulation is the best way of fighting energy inflation. This cuts the bills. This actually, it's best protection against international factors we don't have control of. We can control our energy use here at home, and that's the best way to save it.
Donegal Deputy Pearse Doherty, however, says there's a lack of urgency on the issue.
Retrofitting is exactly what we need to be here, and we need to be seeing ambitious investment, and we'll look at the plans that the government are going to announce when Cabinet come in. But let me be clear, that's not happening today or tomorrow. The plans are there, there'll be an announcement, but this is going to take a while to bed in. The problem is that energy costs are rising right here, right now. The problem is that families are falling into poverty right here, right now.
The Sinn Féin councillor says many important issues have not been addressed following the adjournment of yesterday's meeting of Donegal County Council. It comes as the council seeks an order of enforcement from the court on the suspension of councillor Frank McBurty, who last week was suspended for making sustained interjections and questioning procedures at its monthly meeting. Councillor McBurty attended yesterday's meeting despite his suspension, and it was subsequently adjourned until Monday, February the 21st. Sinn Féin council members held a meeting after yesterday's developments, and councillor Jerry Mcgarrigal says the lack of progress being made on important issues is creating anger among members of the public.
We had many major issues to discuss. MICA was not discussed, our housing crisis was not discussed, the wind energy plan. Nothing of any meaningful importance to the people of this county was allowed to go ahead because of the antics of one man. We note the extreme and justifiable anger that the people of Donegal feel when they see our council fail to proceed on issues of importance, and we're expected to act on it. But unfortunately, the behaviour was totally unacceptable.
Donegal County Council is being urged to investigate all possible flood mitigation solutions for the River Swilly. The river runs through the heart of Letterkenny, with concern that some of the nearby lands may be prone to flooding in the future if action is not taken. The issue is to be raised at today's sitting of the Letterkenny-Milford Municipal District by Councillor Michael McBride. Councillor McBride says it's imperative that Letterkenny is not stripped of valuable development lands and that the local authority do everything it can to combat flooding going forward.
That would make sense for the development of Letterkenny, the development of the AIT, which is going to be a technological university, that we would look at maybe other solutions. Some of the solutions I think that we could look at is if we feel there is some risk of flooding, that car parking could be put on the ground level, student accommodation and that put, up and higher on second and third and fourth floors, etc. in that area.
A committee has been established in Carrigart in a bid to address road safety concerns. A public meeting was held last night to discuss the issues, which includes parking in the village and road safety around the local school. Donegal Deputy Padraig McLaughlin was in attendance at the meeting and believes the committee will be instrumental now in ensuring improvements are implemented.
There's real serious concerns in the community about traffic safety in the village around traffic calming measures such as ramps, maybe electronic signage, car parking, but not just the village, also at the local school. So a committee now has been established to pull together the solutions, to put together a petition and to lobby Donegal County Council for the changes that are required.
Weather now: sunny spells and scattered showers of rain, sleet and some snow today over hills and mountains. Highest afternoon temperatures of 79 degrees in moderate to fresh, occasionally gusty southwest winds. That's all from Highland Radio News for now. We'll be back with an update again at 11 o'clock. Until then, good morning. The obituary notices for this Tuesday morning, February the 8th. The death has occurred of Desmond Wallace, Clar Road, Donegal Town. Funeral service in Donegal Parish Church at 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, followed by burial in Glebe Cemetery, Donegal Town. Funeral may be viewed on the Donegal Group of Parishes Facebook page. How strictly private please, family flyers only please. The death has occurred of John McGee, Port Hall Glen, Buncrana. Remains reposing at his late residence. Removal from his home on Friday morning at 10:15, going to St Mary's Church, Cockhill for Requiem Mass at 11 o'clock, followed by interment in the adjoining cemetery. John's Requiem Mass can be viewed on churchservices.tv. Family time please from 11 p.m. until 11 a.m. Family flowers only please. Donations in lieu of desire to the Donegal Hospice and the Irish Motor Neuron Disease Association, care of any family member or Murphy Funeral Directors. The death has taken place of Charlie Gallagher, late of Summerhill, Donegal Town and formerly of Shrove, Greencastle. Charlie's remains are reposing at Collins' funeral premises, Culdaff, this evening from 5 o'clock until 8 o'clock. Requiem Mass tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock in St Mary's Church, Ballybrack, Moville, followed by burial in the adjoining graveyard. The death has taken place of Josie McKelvey, Fintown. His remains are reposing at his late residence. Requiem Mass at 12 noon tomorrow with Chap Hubble, Kilnefa, Fintown, with burial afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. Rosary tonight at 8 o'clock with house private afterwards until 11 o'clock tomorrow morning. Funeral mass can be viewed on Chat Pobble Column Kilnefa Facebook page. The death has taken place of Sam Call Anagri. His remains are reposing at his sister Mary Charlie Call's residence in Tún Awalya, Ranafast. Rosary tonight at 8 o'clock. Sam's funeral mass will take place tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock in St Mary's Star of the Sea Church, Anagri, followed by burial in the adjoining cemetery. Funeral mass can be viewed live on the Anagri Parish webcam and Facebook page. The death has taken place of Martin Ridge, Calhame Fulcara, and formerly of Castla, County Galway. His remains are reposing at his late residence. House private this morning before the funeral. Funeral mass in Christ the King Church, Gorta Hork, this afternoon at 12 noon, with interment afterwards in the adjacent cemetery. The funeral mass can be viewed live on MCM Media or on the Kieran Roti Funeral Director Facebook page. The death has taken place of Gerald Jerry Kennedy, 95 at Castle Grange Park, Strabane, and formerly of Iona Terrace, Waterside Derry. Requiem Mass in St Mary's Church, Melmount at 10 o'clock. Interment afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. The Requiem Mass can be viewed live via the parish webcam. And the death has taken place of Siobhan Gallagher, 229 Lower Mount Marion, Milford. Remains are reposing at her home. Requiem Mass this morning at 11 o'clock in St Peter's Church, Milford. Burial afterwards in Milford Cemetery. Funeral Mass can be viewed on Church Services TV. Family flowers only, donations if desired to the Friends of Letterkenny University Hospital, care of any family member. For more details, including any family health guidelines for wakes and funerals, please go to highlandradio.com.
You have one new message.
Hi Claire, Auntie Dee here. I just wanted to say a big thank you for skipping my party. We had a great night and everyone was so happy you didn't come. Now you take care. I hope to see you soon. Bye.
No one will thank you for turning up to work or anything else when you're sick. Stay at home and get a test to protect yourself and others from COVID-19. From the HSE, for us all.
Today's 9 till noon show is sponsored by the 3-Store Buncrana. Visit us in store for the best deals on high-speed home broadband and more. 3 for a better connected life.
It's the second hour of the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio. Our Community Garda slot coming up in a little while. Please stick around for that. Before we do anything else, a few of your comments. Ray, the suspended co-option of Johnny McGuinness onto Donegal County Council. Why is this co-option even happening? Any true democracy demands a by-election whenever a sitting councillor resigns or passes away in office, no matter the cost to taxpayers or inconvenience to the political system. Sadly, in the peat and potato republic, preserving the political status quo and local family dynasties, says a caller. The convention on Donegal County Council is that when a councillor passes away, the party to which that councillor belongs, or if that councillor is an independent, the independent bloc has got the right to co-opt a new member, and the convention is that whoever that party decides to put forward is not challenged by the other parties on council. Technically, going by the rules, there is no guarantee that Johnny McGuinness would be accepted, that Johnny McGuinness is being nominated by Fine Gael, but what would happen in the council meeting is the chair will call for nominations. Fine Gael will nominate Johnny McGuinness. He will then say, are there any other nominations from the floor? Now, there won't be, because convention will be followed in this instance, as it has been on several occasions where sitting councillors have passed away, both at county and municipal and town council level over the past number of years. And there have been several in recent years that I personally have covered. And, it is that is what happens at Donegal County Council level. And that is, for instance, if you're in the European Parliament, there isn't a by-election in the European Parliament. In the European Parliament, what happens is an MEP takes their seat and they then nominate, I think, a list of up to 3 people who will take over in the seat in the event that they give up the seat. It happened most recently in the Midlands Northwest constituency when Mairead McGuinness was made EU Commissioner, and Colin Markey, who is from County Louth, was the next Fine Gael nominee as part of the replacement list, and so he took that particular seat in the European Parliament. So there isn't always a by-election. There is in the Dáil and there is in parliaments in the UK as well, but at council level, co-option has always been the certainly the situation in Donegal County Council. I believe on most other councils across the country as well, and certainly the convention and the long-standing tradition that is abided by in Donegal is that whenever someone passes away, that the nominee that's put forward by their party is the person that will take that seat on a post. That's the convention. With regards to obesity and body shaming of children, if I'm drunk, a publican has the right to refuse to serve me on the grounds that it could be detrimental to my well-being. Surely fast food takeaways should have the right to turn away parents with fat kids. That's a comment from a listener. I think it's... I'm not sure it's comparing like with like. And I certainly don't see any fast food restaurant, or any restaurant indeed, turning away business in that way. I mean, the risk to health of drunkenness and having too much alcohol is far more immediate and far more detrimental in the now than obesity and weight issues. I was in a shop yesterday not realising I had walked in without my mask. As I was paying, I saw the masks on the desk. I lifted one, saying, I forgot my mask, I'll take one of those. I was shocked to be charged $1.50 for one single mask. Surely if the public are expected to continue to wear them in shops, etc., they should be made cheaper. As a pensioner, I found it expensive. I suppose it depends on, was it a cotton mask or was it one of the disposable masks? But I'll be honest, I did exactly the same myself. On one occasion I was, and ironically I was actually going to an appointment in a hospital, not in Letterkenny, and I was walking up to the hospital and suddenly realised that I had left my mask on the locker in the hotel room. And thankfully there was a Londis across the road from the hospital, so I pulled my jumper up over my nose, I walked into the shop and I bought a packet of masks there and then. And you know, it's something that can happen to any of us. Caller says, any more news on the walkway from Derry to St Johnson going ahead? It'd be great to see this getting the green light. It's certainly being discussed, and I know Paul Canning for one was speaking about it only very recently, and certainly there's a lot of pushing to get that done. We know there's work being done between Muff and Derry, there's work being done between Strabane and Lifford, indeed a lot being done with Riverine and so on as well. And yes, the more we see walkways and greenways developed, I think the better, and it's wonderful to see them grow. Caller says there are a lot of slates lying loose on a roof on Letterkenny's main street. It's very dangerous to pedestrians and to parked cars. Surely the local council should be addressing this before there is a serious injury. Someone says, never mind the education of disadvantaged pupils, surely the burning social issue of today is the provision of gender-neutral toilets in our schools. I think that most certainly is tongue-in-cheek, very much indeed. It's 14 minutes past 10. As I say, our Community Garda slot with Sergeant Charlene Anderson is coming up very soon indeed. Before we do anything else, though, I know there are people out there with a book in one hand and a pencil in the other asking, where are the numbers? Wait no more. It's time for Highland Radio NCBI Radio Bingo. So without further ado, I will hand you over to Canis.
It's time for NCBI Bingo on Highland Radio.
It's Tuesday the 8th of February. You're playing on the brown sheet. The reference number is S7. It's game number 6. The numbers are 19, 64, 50, 57, 54, 63, 44, 22, 53, and finally 55. Phone your claim to 9104833 before 8 tonight, leaving your name, contact number and the name of the shop where you purchased your book, and we'll call you back the next working day. Get all your NCBI Bingo information at highlandradio.com.
Do you currently have vacancies that need urgently filled? Have you tried various ways to find new staff but didn't succeed? Let Highland Radio help you source and fill your current vacancies in the most cost-effective way. Simply sign up to our new job spot and we will tell our listeners about your vacancies both on air and online. Every Monday, Wednesday and Friday during our primetime shows, we will broadcast the latest job opportunities across the Northwest and into counties Derry and Tyrone. All job listings will be available online at highlandradio.com. For more information, contact the advertising team on 07491 25322 or email advertising@highlandradio.com. Highland Radio, we're here for you.
reliable, efficient and affordable home heating technologies, including the HVO biofuel-compatible Vortex condensing boiler, highly efficient Arona heat pump and Uflex underfloor heating, look no further than Grant to heat your home now and into the future. Think heating, think Grant. Visit grant.eu.
Every once in a while, something comes along that's different, makes us reassess, consider our own thoughts. That's why Cupra was created. And it's how we conceived the Formentor e-hybrid. Drive another way with electric power. Move another way with the performance of a petrol engine. The Cupra Formentor e-hybrid. Contact your Cupra specialist at Connolly's Cupra Sligo, Collooney, County Sligo. Search Cupra.
Nutrius XL Yo with Lamb and Nutrius Yo with Lamb Crunch are both formulated to ensure a vigorous lamb and excellent milk yield. Avail of our lambing season offer: 25 kg bags, buy 10 get one free, and €10 off per tonne in bulk. Available at your local Homeland store. Offer until March 31st. Visit nutrius.ie for full nutritional information.
Highland Radio Time Checks, brought to you by Letterkenny Shopping Centre, the centre of shopping in Donegal. Free parking and shopping all under one roof. Letterkenny Shopping Centre, bringing you the time at...
And the time is 18 minutes past 10 o'clock.
Today's 9 till noon show is sponsored by the 3-Store Buncrana. Visit us in store for the best deals on high-speed home broadband and more. 3 for a better connected life.
It's the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio. It is a Tuesday morning. It's 18 minutes past 10. And of course, it being a Tuesday, it's time for our community Garda slot. And I'm delighted to say that in studio this morning is Sergeant Charlene Anderson. Charlene, good morning.
Good morning, Donal. How are you?
And you know what? If I shoved off your mic, we'd be able to hear you then, which would make things a lot easier, I think.
Perfect.
Charlene, good to see you. A lot to get through on the slot this morning. So we're going to start with some breaking news, as it were, and a burglary in Letterkenny last night.
That's correct, Donal. So Letterkenny Gardaí are this morning investigating a burglary that occurred between 9:30 and 10 p.m. last night. So that was the 7th of February at the Sunnyside Apartments on the Port Road in Letterkenny. Now, the door to an apartment was forced open and entry was gained. So a black mobile phone, a Bank of Ireland card and a small quantity of cash was stolen from the property. So we're just appealing this morning to anyone who may have observed any suspicious activity in the area, and possibly between 9:15 and 10:15 p.m. And if anyone was in the area and may have dash cam footage, we'd ask them just to contact Gardaí in Letterkenny on 074 91 67 100.
One of the things we've been seeing a lot on the slot in recent months has been criminal damage, and sadly quite a bit of that to report this morning as well.
Absolutely. There's a number of incidents that we have to cover today. I suppose the first incident took place in Letterkenny. Gardaí are investigating a criminal damage incident there that occurred in the area of Glentane Manor, and that occurred on Tuesday, the 1st of February, between 1 a.m. and 8 a.m. Now, a resident in the estate had parked their vehicle outside their property overnight, only to discover that 2 of the tyres had been slashed. So we're appealing this morning to any residents in the area who may have noticed anything suspicious, or indeed anyone who was in the area at that time may have any information to offer in relation to this particular incident. And again, it's Gardaí in Letterkenny on 074 9167 100.
And moving now to Buncrana.
And Buncrana Gardaí are also investigating a criminal damage incident that happened at a house in the Clúnse area of Clonmany. Now, this occurred on the 4th of February, Donal, between 9:30 p.m. and 10 p.m. So the residents of the property were at home at the time, and they heard a loud bang outside, and they later established that the window of their property had been smashed. So if anybody has any information to offer in relation to this particular incident, or indeed again observed anything suspicious in the area at the time, they can contact Gardaí in Buncrana on 07493 20540.
And heading back to Letterkenny again for an incident that happened at the weekend.
That's correct. Gardaí in Letterkenny are investigating another criminal damage incident. Now, this happened at the Forthwell Apartments in Letterkenny on Saturday the 5th of February, and it occurred between 1:15am and 1:30am. Now, the front window of an apartment block was broken between those times. So again, if anybody witnessed the incident or anyone has any information in relation to the incident, we would ask them to contact Gardaí in Letterkenny.
And in the early hours of last Saturday, an incident in Lifford.
Yes, Donal. Also, Gardaí and Letterkenny are investigating this incident. It's a criminal damage incident that happened on the Letterkenny Road in Lifford in the early hours of Saturday, the 5th of February, between 4am and 4:30am. Now, Gardaí are appealing for dashcam footage from the Letterkenny Road and also within the Lifford area in general between 3:30am and 5am. So they're appealing for anyone who may have been in the area and observed a black Volkswagen Passat and or a 7-seater Safira in the area between those times. So once again, if anyone has any dashcam footage, we would ask them to contact Letterkenny Gardaí in relation to this incident.
Now, something that we were speaking about actually on the programme earlier with specific reference to parents is the fact that today is Safer Internet Day, and obviously the Garda National Cybercrime Bureau is keeping a very close eye on issues pertaining to that.
That's correct. I suppose when I arrived this morning, I could hear you speaking to someone in relation to the Safer Internet Day, and it was just something we wanted to touch on this morning as well. Obviously, it's today, and the Garda National Cybercrime Bureau, in conjunction with the Garda National Community Engagement Bureau and Webwise Ireland, are advising people to talk, listen and learn to prevent becoming a victim of online abuse or crime. So we just like to encourage parents and children to have open conversations about their life online. I suppose, look, there's a wealth of knowledge, material in relation to online safety, and it's all on that website, webwise.ie, and there's a number of upcoming webinars for parents and children to mark Safer Internet Day, and registration can be found on that website. So.
And there's been a lot of talk as well too about scams online, and they can come via text messages, they can come via email, and I suppose you can never say it enough that when you come across something suspicious electronically through your social media contacts or through your web or through your text or whatever, if it's suspicious, there's a reason it's suspicious.
Absolutely, and we're just asking people in that regard just not to click on any links. If they want to screenshot the message but then delete it straight away, to contact ourselves or indeed the bank, and never act on any advice received. I suppose sometimes these cold callers can provide instructions over the phone, and I suppose the hope there is to gain access to your computer or indeed your personal banking details. So once again, it's just to be vigilant. Look, they are prevalent, they have become very prevalent over COVID, so it's just for people to be mindful, and indeed if anyone has any questions or concerns, they can always contact the Garda station and we can advise them in that regard.
We've got used to seeing Gardaí looking a certain way, and people who've been watching this lot online will be looking at you this morning and they see your colleagues, and they're used to seeing a certain uniform. That's about to change.
It is, yes, it's about to change, all right. So at the moment, a national new uniform is being rolled out. It will consist of polo shirts, kind of like combat trousers, operational trousers, and it'll be more conducive to our role as operational Gardaí. I suppose the uniform I'm wearing today, it will take a couple of weeks for the new uniform to be rolled out nationally. We're just in receipt of it at the moment, but a go-live date will be identified, possibly maybe the end of March, the beginning of April, and it'll be rolled out to Gardaí, sergeants and inspectors, probably 13,000 members across the organisation. And I suppose as we approach the 100th anniversary of our establishment, it is only the third time that the formal uniform has changed. Thankfully, the skirts are gone. They used to have skirts years ago.
I remember those
they were never in my time, but thankfully they're gone. The trousers are indeed, more conducive to operational duties. So, so we're hopefully we'll be in receipt of those in the coming weeks. The cap will remain. People have asked about the hat and the cap. Yes, it will remain in operation, and I suppose it's a unique and distinctive element of the Garda uniform, so that will still stay.
One of the things that will go in many cases then, if polo shirts are coming in, will be the tie. And I'm sure, and I know as someone who wears ties as little as possible, if ever you see me wearing a tie, I'm either presenting something at a show or I'm going to a funeral or a wedding. And I mean, that's the reality. And I'm sure a lot of your members and colleagues will be absolutely delighted not to have to wear the tie on a daily basis. Oh,
absolutely. And particularly for a certain type of instance, like public order incidents, things like that. They're not really conducive to what we do. Although, look, I do like my uniform, and I think for court purposes and maybe some ceremonies and that, this type of uniform will remain, but it's just more for the operational day-to-day role of what we do. It's, as I said, it's more conducive to that.
Another issue you wanted to raise before we go, Charlene, is that of personal alarms, and they're hugely important things. And as I was saying to a fair, I sort of take a personal interest in this because my late mother, before she passed away, she wore one. And it did on more than one occasion prove to be very important in making contact with a neighbour. So from that point of view, a really important piece of advice here.
Absolutely. Well, it's just, I was visiting one of our locals there in Buncrana over the Christmas period, and he just asked me, just to maybe the next time I was on the radio, would I mind mentioning it. And really what it is that what he has found from speaking to his neighbours is sometimes people don't check their personal alarm. And when I say don't check it, it's just their battery. basically they can do like a call to the provider just to see if it's working correctly. And sometimes people have no need to use these personal alarms for years, and then when they do need to use it, they find the battery is no longer working. So we just asked people this morning just to maybe make that call. They can do kind of like a test call to their provider, and just tell them when they press the button on the alarm, this is merely a test call, there's no issue with it. If there is a problem with their alarms and they don't know how to change the battery of that, they can always contact myself in Buncrana or indeed any Garda station, and we have community Gardaí. We can go out and we can assist them. But it's just to make sure that they know that they can do the test call and ensure that their batteries are working correctly, because in the event that it is needed, well, at least they know that they can contact the emergency services.
And it's vitally important because, so as you say, and hopefully someone who is living on their own and they're older, maybe, hopefully they won't need it from one end of the year to the other. But if they take a phone or if there is an issue, to know that button is there to be pressed and help can be called, either the emergency services or a neighbour or whatever, it is hugely important.
Absolutely. That's it.
Sergeant Charlene Anderson, thank you very much indeed for speaking to us this morning. That was Sergeant Charlene there. And if you can help Gardaí, just before you go, Charlene, just if you want to repeat that confidential line again, that if anyone has, they can contact their local Garda station if they have any answers or perspectives to offer on the various issues. But the confidential line once again?
1800 666 111.
Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Donal.
What's gravity? When does the grass grow greener? Can people with longer legs jump higher? How are plastic cups made? How filthy are our parents? Which ingredients make the best slime? Why do we dream? Are you faster than a calculator? Could a robot be powered by fruit or vegetables?
When children ask why, who knows what will happen? ESB Science Blast, delivered by the RDS, empowers students from 3rd to 6th class to discover the wonder of science by investigating simple questions, wherever their classroom is. To find out more, visit esbscienceblast.com.
Store and Go Springtown Dairy, the north of Ireland's only temperature-controlled smart access individually sized storage units.
Store and Go offers storage for personal storage, house moves and renovations, business storage for excess stock or filing systems. Once signed up, you can access 24 hours a day through an app on your phone, gaining access through 4 levels of security to your most precious possessions.
Call Store and Go Springtown Dairy on 02871 278 900 to discuss your needs and get bespoke advice, or get a free quote at storeandgo.net.
Are you troubled with painful varicose veins? Restore your confidence with vein treatment at Kingsbridge Private Hospital, Letterkenny. Our vascular consultants offer assessment, advice and options on the latest treatments available. So
It was that programme on a Sunday afternoon in the early to mid 1980s, much beloved of people of my era, and It's a Fine Fine Day by Tony Carey was one of the videos that featured regularly. It was all about his uncle that got out of prison and got involved with a mafia gang, and there was this really involved story video that was really good, that played along with it, and I suspect it was the video more than the song that actually got out the airplay, but hopefully that's brought back some memories. Now, I want to go to line one and say good morning to Damien Carlin. Damien, good morning.
Good morning, Donal. How are you?
I'm very well indeed. Damien, you're based in Gweedore, but originally from Derry, if I'm correct in saying that. You have a 3.5-year-old daughter, and you went through what can only be well, she was 3.5 at the time, and at the beginning of lockdown, you found yourself facing a problem and facing an issue that you wouldn't expect to face with a child of that age.
Yeah, that's true. Just to give a bit of background, we were living in Derry at the start of lockdown, and our daughter Eva, like most kids, she'd kind of been cut off from everything that she knew. So she was going to her grandparents in Derry, and she was going down weekends to her grandparents in Gweedore, and she was going to be a childminder, and she had a lot of friends and stuff like that, and that was kind of taken away from her, all of a sudden, and she was kind of left to her own devices with us. So we went for a period of about 6 weeks, just myself, my wife Marie, and Eva at home, and we were doing the same things that everyone was doing, watching Joe Wicks in the morning and doing home baking and stuff like that. But we noticed Eva starting to change a bit as the time went on. She was just kind of displaying some strange symptoms, like she was acting anxious, having panic attacks, and it got to the stage where she had what can only be described as a full-blown breakdown. For a 3.5-year-old, you can only imagine it.
Yeah. And it got to the point where she was hospitalised.
Yeah, she was. So we made contact with Mcgarrigal Hospital in Derry. We were referred there from her GP, and she was advised to come over to the paediatric ward, which we did. Initially, they had suspected that she had a virus. They'd mentioned COVID, which she'd done the tests, and at the start, obviously, everyone was terrified of COVID. Nobody really knew what it was, but that came back negatively. But she was still displaying a very high temperature. They then got very concerned that it might have been meningitis or encephalitis. She didn't really know how to express what she was feeling. She was saying that she had like a swinging thing in her head, and she was afraid of certain motion, like, for instance, the wind coming in the window and moving the blinds, or the air freshener in the car moving. She was terrified of these things. And we only found out later that it was her way of trying to express what she was feeling. She didn't know how else to put it across. But the problems for us really only started when she came out of hospital. She was kept in Mcgarrigal for a week because they were concerned about meningitis, etc. So she went through a lot of tests. She went through 3 lumbar punctures and an MRI, and they determined that there was no physical cause that they could find. So we were released from hospital. And when Eva got out, we very quickly made a decision to move to Gweedore. My wife was pregnant at the time of our second child, and we needed the support. So we moved to Gweedore. And again, along with all the other changes that Eva had, this was another massive change added in on top of that. And although for us, looking back, it was definitely the right decision to move to Gweedore, it was very difficult. She started reliving a lot of these procedures that she had, and she was having night terrors and stuff.
And how is how is Eva now?
She's come along a lot. She is going to play therapy in Fulcara with a lovely lady from Gweedore named Carol Beatty, and she's been at that the last few months, and that's made a huge difference to her life. So she's coming on leaps and bounds, thankfully.
What you have done in response to this is quite unique, because you've written your experiences down, but you've written them in the form of a short book that's called Eva Finds Her Smile.
Yeah, I have. That kind of came about. As I say, we were kind of left to our own devices like everyone else, and all the kind of support functions had been taken away. So we didn't really know what else to do. So I kind of went on the internet and started researching ways that I could try and help her myself. And I came across a very interesting idea, and that kids that age normally respond to certain stimuli. So one of the things that I found would be to put her experiences in writing so that we could read together as a bedtime story. Eva's loved bedtime stories from she was born, basically. So, I created a story about a young girl named Eva. So obviously my daughter's Eva, but I called the child Eva. And basically I based it on what had happened to Eva. And so we started reading it at night. Basically the book it makes it easy for kids her age to understand what anxiety is and what the cause of it is and what you can do to make it better. So we started reading it, and I did find that it was making an improvement in her general well-being. So I kind of got the idea to try and maybe get it published to see if it could help other kids. So I started that process about a year ago, and I got in touch with a few publishers, and luckily I got some interest. So for the last year and a half, I've been working with a team of illustrators from Pegasus Publishers, and the book was published last week. So yeah, exciting.
It's important because it's your experience is something that not a lot of parents would have gone through, thankfully. And the issue, of course, the problem you will have had is trying to get information and trying to get support. You're going to find something of a void because there isn't an awful lot out there. And hopefully this is the sort of book that can be helpful to parents. But crucially, as you've said, because it's easily read and because it can be used as a bedside story, hopefully it's a book that can bring some comfort to a child in the same situation in the future as well.
Yeah, well, that was my main goal when researching the book and writing it and deciding to try and get it published, was first and foremost to help other kids who were going through similar issues, but also to help parents. So one thing that I'm aware of, and a lot of people are aware of, is there is still a taboo and there's still a stigma around mental health, especially childhood mental health, because we just don't expect it to happen in children so young. But the one thing that I really want to get from the release of this book is to get people talking as families and to get parents talking as kids, because like in our generation it's not something that would have been discussed growing up, and if you had any sort of issues you would have just kept it to yourself, and obviously that's just going to spiral as you get older. So I think if people get the book and they read it to their kids, and it's not just for anxiety or mental health, it could be any issues, facing kids these days, and if people use that as like a gateway into that initial conversation to bring up and talk about important topics and maybe get some courage and get a bit of strength to do that. So I hope that the book will, for anyone that has it or anyone that gets it, that I would hope that's what would come from it.
Well, there is a big debate going on, obviously, at the moment about the CAMS service, Child and Adolescent Mental Health Services. And what your experience shows is, as well as the need for interventions when children are in their teens and a little bit older, I mean, there is potentially a need for emergency intervention right at the age Aoife was at the time. And it would seem at this point, there's not very many people who would even know how to handle a situation like that, never mind being in a position to make a meaningful intervention.
Yeah, definitely. And I think even the doctors and the consultants concerned, they were looking for a physical cause. They were just convinced that it was meningitis or encephalitis because the symptoms were so strange, and they just didn't expect to see it in a child that young. And although it may be rare, but we could be the lucky ones that Aoife was willing to talk to us about it and she was willing to express it. But there could be a lot more kids out there that won't do that. They will keep it to themselves. So, as I say, even the doctors were surprised. So if it gets people talking, if it makes people aware that these issues can occur from any age, and that's what I'd like to achieve.
She must be getting close to the point now where she's starting school and beginning that. I mean, how are things progressing in terms of that?
Yeah, she's in junior infants at the moment in Gweedore. And initially, when she started in school, it was, well, for most kids, they're very nervous when they go in. But for Aoife, it was kind of different. It was a big step up.
Yeah.
When we moved to Gweedore and we were kind of in our own bubble, as everyone else was, it was very difficult for her then to come out of that bubble and start interacting with other kids. And sometimes she does still have a bit of difficulty, but she has come on leaps and bounds. She really has improved, thankfully.
But based on the title of the book, I mean, Eva has found her smile.
Yeah. So the book is Eva Finds Her Smile, EVA. So I didn't want to brand, I didn't want to brand her with it as she gets older. So I've based the character on her and her story. But I'm hoping that a lot of people, young kids, can relate to it.
It's an absolutely fantastic thing to do, Damien, and I have no doubt that this is really going to be a helpful resource to people in the future, and hopefully it'll help families that find themselves in the same situation as yourself. Fair play to you and to your family for going through all this, and we wish your wife, we wish Aoife especially all the best, and may the book be a huge success, and may you get the rewards for it that you deserve. Thanks very much indeed.
Thank you.
Damien, it's been a pleasure. Thank you. That's Damien Carlin there. The book is called Eva Finds Her Smile, and it's a book which I think has the potential to be a very important book into the future. It's 13 minutes to 11 o'clock. Going to take a short break. Back after these.
Central Auto Parts really do stock everything for all makes and models of cars. Shocks, springs, wipers, mats, brakes. Need I go on? And now stocking Celimix and Sunny Car and Commercial Paint. Central Auto Parts, Portlink Road Business Park, Letterkenny. Find us on Facebook or call us on 074 9127 491.
From our soils, our sustenance, from our farms, our food, from our farmers, our ingenuity, from our villages, our unique communities, our meats, our grains, our vegetables, our dairy, our eggs, our fruit. There is a little piece of Ireland in everything we produce. An Agri-Aware and Irish Farmers Association initiative promoting environmental, economic and social sustainability. Learn more at sustainingireland.ie.
Do you need a little extra help staying in your home? At Bluebird Care, we offer a wide variety of QMark-approved personalised home care services across Donegal. And our fully trained and committed staff will always meet your care needs with kindness, compassion and dignity. To get your personal home care assessment plan, visit bluebirdcare.ie or call our care team today on 07491 29562 and bring care home.
I joined Bluebird Care as a healthcare assistant. It's so rewarding that at 70, I'm still here.
I love my job and it fits around my lifestyle.
The training and support I received is superb.
It doesn't feel like I'm working. Visit bluebirdcarecareers.ie to find out how you can join our expanding team of healthcare assistants.
My only regret is that I didn't join sooner.
This is not just a career in care. This is a career with Bluebird Care.
Highland Radio weather updates with Ireland West Airport. Ronaldo, De Bruyne, Cavani. You can now see both Manchester teams in action with Ryanair's twice weekly service to Manchester. Ireland West Airport. You're flying.
Sunny spells and scattered showers of rain, sleet and some snow over hills and mountains today. Now that's what you call a mixed bag. Highest afternoon temperature 7 to 9 degrees Celsius in moderate to fresh, occasionally gusty southwest winds. Scattered showers along the coast will occasionally penetrate inland. Lowest overnight temperatures 1 to 3 degrees Celsius. Coldest around dawn with some frost and icy patches possible. Light to moderate southwest to west winds will increase fresh to strong and gusty. Tomorrow sunny spells with scattered showers in coastal areas. Some of sleet, again possibly some snow on hills. Highest temperatures tomorrow 5 to 7 degrees Celsius, fresh to strong and gusty southwest to west winds. If you were watching Prime Time on RTE TV last night, you'll have seen a presentation on domestic violence, and in particular one of the things highlighted was the issue of refuge beds and the fact that there are so few available for emergency situations. And sadly we know, particularly through the pandemic and as we come out of it, there is still a huge need for that service. Joined on the line by Dr. Mary Hainsworth, who's manager of the Donegal Domestic Violence Services. Mary, good morning.
Morning, Donal. How you doing?
Very well indeed. You must have watched that primetime programme last night and thought to yourself, no surprises there, sadly.
Yeah, unfortunately it is the case. We were involved with RTE in terms of talking to them as well about the issues. But the bottom line is, and I see the Minister has come out today and said funding's not an issue, it's just a case of getting the system up and going. But I would challenge that, funding is an issue. Effectively, refuges are part of the homelessness response. And we face the same issues that all the homeless providers face. Once a building's up and running, it's got to be maintained. Who funds that? Who provides extra units? Who staffs it? All of those costs are kind of the hidden costs of running a refuge or any homeless unit. And that doesn't really seem to be being addressed in the politicians' responses at the moment. It's not quite as clear-cut as they're kind of making out. Yes, there's a lack of space, but who's actually going to fund it? Who's going to step in and build it? Who's going to manage it? Who's going to coordinate it? None of those issues are really being addressed at the moment.
And we do know that, even taking the issue of refuge beds out of it, as you said, if a woman needs somewhere else to live, it's going to involve getting involved in the rental market, and we know at this point in time the rental market can be fraught and not to mention hugely expensive.
Well, there's the rental market and there's also the social housing market, and neither really are operating effectively at the moment because the private rental market was never meant to subsidise social housing. So many people who really can only afford social housing cannot afford now the rates that are being asked for in private rented. And the demand for properties means that, there really isn't the properties available, and they're very restricted in terms of the areas in the county that you can actually move into. And even though the council is coming on board and building more social housing, it takes time to put together those developments. So, you're looking and trying to plan 18 months, 2 years in advance where properties might be. And you've got a waiting list of 4 or 5 years of clients on social housing lists. So the likelihood of getting into your own social housing property, if you became homeless today, you're looking at 2-3 years down the line. And how do you manage it in the meantime? That's the biggest challenge.
And in terms of immediately necessary emergency refuge accommodation in Donegal, how are we sorted at the moment? Because we know traditionally there has been a shortage in that area as well.
There has. No, we are one of the more fortunate counties, and if you look at any of the highlights where, counties that don't have accommodation, we're not there. We do have 4 family units in refuge. We are currently developing 3 safe housing units that are going to come on board this year. So, compared to many of the other counties, we are actually very fortunate. But we still, between July and December, we still put up 16 families in hotels and B&B. 20 children were homeless because of domestic abuse that had to be homed in not ideal situations. And again, there's a question mark about who's going to continue funding that, but it's not ideal, and that's why people tend to go back. It's why, the burden of what it means to leave suddenly hits home, and then you've got children to think about. So many people end up going back into very difficult situations just to provide a roof over their head, and that shouldn't be the way that it is if we're trying to give safety and we're trying to give security to children in particular, and also to the families that support them.
And it's also coming at a time when women are going through what is going to be a hugely emotional turmoil and a hugely difficult time mentally and emotionally. So to be trying to deal with the practicalities of rent and the practicalities of navigating that market of rent and social housing and application and everything else on top of what must already be a time of emotional turmoil, that just piles on the difficulty.
It does, and we do have an outreach program, and that is predominantly their work. It is supporting clients who have either chosen to stay in their own house or who have moved into a new house and are now struggling with the practicalities around just maintaining the house, the heat and all the rest of it that goes with it. And often these cases might have social work involvement, they might have other professionals engaged. So, the stress is not just your own immediate life. You're trying to negotiate and navigate a whole range of different things out there. And these things aren't unified, they're not made easy so that you can just tell your story to one person and every service knows about it. You've got to traipse physically to each of these locations, transfer all your payments, move everything to your new address. They do say moving house is one of the most stressful things you can do anyway, regardless of anything else. So, yeah, it's a huge piece of the work that we do, supporting that and advocating for clients and just kind of providing that emotional backup to make sure they can get through what they're going through.
And are there women in a potentially unsafe situation who are staying in that situation because of the difficulties associated with securing alternative accommodation?
Oh, absolutely, and that's the unfortunate piece, because even though we were able to offer B&B accommodation, during the pandemic, it was not an ideal solution for some. We even had to move women out into Northern Ireland to try and access refuge accommodation over there. And many women have said, well, look, the kids, it's their home, it's where their school is. I know it's not safe, but, the hassle of everything else, I just can't face it. I'm going to have to go back and live and try and work through this. So, yeah, all lives are kind of being put at risk a little bit here.
And we know that the pandemic did shine a light on domestic violence and the situation that was exacerbated by many women because of the fact that people were being forced to spend more time together in enclosed areas, and there wasn't necessarily the escape and the freedom of going to work, and that did exacerbate many people's situations. Has the government, and we know there was a short-term response from a Garda point of view, from a government point of view, but has there been a long-term response, or are you getting any indication from government that commitment that was shown during the pandemic is now going to last and become something more long-term?
Well, I see the Minister is kind of riding on the back of all these stories at the moment and trying to push forward and get an intergovernmental kind of review and focus on it. But this has happened before, and it hasn't really released any extra resources. And I mean, the Gardaí had that space where they could actually focus on domestic abuse. But now, like, the nighttime economy's opened up, all the other crimes that were kind of maybe put on hold a little bit are going to be back out there now. So there's going to be a demand on their resources and times. And that's the same with all the other services. I mean, one of the big gaps was that children didn't have an outlet to be able to tell their story. You know, there was no schools that they could actually maybe pick it up earlier. What happened during the pandemic, a lot of cases were reaching crisis point, and that was when the agencies were getting involved. Ideally, we don't want cases getting to crisis point. We want interventions to happen earlier so that we can actually work with families, and other agencies can be brought in. You know, they can do some of that groundwork rather than letting it get to crisis where you need to have the emergency services involved.
Dr. Marie Hainsworth, Manager of the Donegal Domestic Violence Service, thanks very much indeed for speaking to us this morning.
Thank you, Donal.
Certainly an issue that needs to be monitored and looked at very carefully in the coming weeks and months. That's Dr. Marie Hainsworth there. It's a minute and a half to 11 o'clock. News with Michaela after these.
Are you thinking of changing your car? Then look no further than Inishowen Credit Union for your finance. It's simple. A car loan from Inishowen Credit Union means you borrow the money to pay for your car and the car is yours. No hidden fees or balloon payments. Apply online at www.inishowencu.ie or contact us on 074 9361017. Membership of Inishowen Credit Union is open to anyone who lives or works in the Inishowen Peninsula. Loans are subject to approval. Terms and conditions apply. Inishowen Credit Union is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Donegal County Council want to hear your views and invite you to get involved in the preparation of an outdoor recreation strategy for Donegal. A number of online consultation events are running across the county from the 31st of January to the 9th of February and online survey until the 22nd of February. Sign in and have your say. Visit donegalcoco.ie to find out more.
The good times are back. The highly acclaimed Joe Dolan Show Remembering Joe is back in Letterkenny for one night only. And what a party it will be. St. Patrick's Night, Thursday, March 17th, eve of the bank holiday at the Clanry Hotel. The spectacular show starring brother Ben Dolan, nephews Adrian and Ray, niece Sandra, Karen Carroll, plus the original Joe Dolan Band will have you rocking and rolling in the aisles at the Clanry. Celebrate our national holiday in style. Tickets now available at the Clanry Hotel, 0749124 369. Remember, there's no show like a Joe show. Always a sellout. Book now.
Donegal Hearing Clinic, now open at Pierce Road, Letterkenny and Buncrana. Now offering state-of-the-art rechargeable hearing aids free with your PRSI. Also pain-free microsuction wax removal services. Call 07491 88470 or donegalhearingclinic.ie. Life sounds brilliant with Donegal Hearing Clinic.
At 3, we have an amazing range of broadband offers to keep you connected. Switch to 3's high-speed home broadband for just €39 per month and get 3 months free with no upfront cost. Visit the 3 store Buncrana for this offer and more. Subject to coverage, T's and C's apply.
It's the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio. It's 11 o'clock. Time for headlines. Can we say good morning to Michaela Clark?
Thanks, Donal. Good morning. A British government minister says the toppling of the Stormont executive won't change its approach to Brexit negotiations. It's after First Minister Paul Givan resigned over the Northern Ireland Protocol last week. The UK's Minister of State for Northern Ireland, Conor Burns, made the comments to a Westminster committee a short time ago. As you just heard on the 9 till noon show, the manager of the Donegal Domestic Violence Service says a lack of emergency refuge accommodation is forcing people back into unsafe situations. The lack of refuge beds available in Donegal resulted in 16 families being housed in hotels and B&Bs last month, while 20 children were homeless because of domestic abuse. The Environment Minister says a new retrofit scheme is the best way of tackling rising energy costs. The €352 million scheme will see grants of €25,000 made available for full retrofits at covering half the cost. The government will also cover up to 80% of the cost of smaller projects like insulating an attic. Donegal Deputy Pierce Doherty, however, says there's a lack of urgency on the issue. Gardaí are investigating a burglary in Letterkenny last night. Between 9:30 and 10 o'clock, the door of an apartment at the Sunnyside Apartments on the Port Road was forced open and entry gained. A black Alcatel mobile phone, a Bank of Ireland card and a small sum of cash was stolen from the property. Meanwhile, investigations are continuing into a number of criminal damage incidents across the county. Tyres of a car parked in Letterkenny were slashed, while windows of properties in Clonmany and Letterkenny were smashed. Gardaí are also keen to speak with anyone who saw a Volkswagen Passat and a 7-seater Sapphira on the Letterkenny Road in Lifford between 3:30 and 5 a.m. on Saturday night last. A committee has been established in Carrigart in a bid to address road safety concerns. A public meeting was held last night to discuss the issues, which includes parking in the village and road safety around the local school. And Donegal could benefit from a €1.5 million biodiversity fund. The 2022 Local Biodiversity Action Fund has opened to applications from local authorities. The fund aims to support locally led projects that align with actions under the National Biodiversity Action Plan. Those are the latest headlines. We'll be back with an update again at 12 noon.
At Irish Life, we've been helping people make smart investments with their nest egg for over 80 years. For actual trusted advice, search irishlife.ie or contact your financial broker or advisor. We know Irish Life. We are Irish Life. Irish Life Financial Services is tied to Irish Life Assurance for life and pension products. Irish Life Assurance plc is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland. Irish Life Financial Services Limited is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Today's 9 till noon show is sponsored by the 3-Store Buncrana. Visit us in store for the best deals on high-speed home broadband and more. 3 for a better connected life.
It's the third and final hour of the 9 till noon show this morning on Highland Radio. 086 60 25,000. For your text messages or WhatsApp messages, you can call us 074 91 25,000 0035 0035374 91 25,000 if you're outside of the dialing area. Caroline taking your calls and producing the show as well. Comments at Highland Radio if you wish to send us an email. We're on social media as well, at Highland Radio on Twitter and Highland Hub on Facebook. You may have seen in the papers Senator Eileen Flynn, who of course is based in Donegal, independent senator, has blasted Jimmy Carr's Holocaust joke about travellers as a prime example of the casual racism against the community. I am not going to repeat the joke. Many people will have heard it. And the joke is included on a performance by Jimmy Carr called His Dark Materials, which is on Netflix and is still available. A petition has been launched calling on Netflix to remove segments of that particular show. And I'm joined on the line by Hugh Friel, Traveller Men Development and Health Worker with the Donegal Travellers Project, a regular guest on this show. Hugh, good morning.
Good morning, Donal. How are you?
Not too bad at all, thanks. Hugh, it seems once again, sadly, we have to talk to you about an utterance by a celebrity, by someone in entertainment who has made what many will see as a casual joke, but a joke that is really hurtful to yourself and to your community and indeed to others as well.
Yes, Donal, a casual joke, people will see and it's as funny or on his behalf he thinks it's hilarious that he can come out with this kind of racist comments around, travellers, around Jewish, LGBT, people with disabilities was included in it, Jehovah's Witnesses was included in the joke, and it's not acceptable in our society. But look, comedy is humour, and humour is good for people. Laughter is good for your mindset. But don't take a hand of other ethnic minority groups or marginalise other groups or segregate them into proportions for the laughter or on the back of other people, if you get what I'm saying. So I just think it was revolting. I think it was a disgusting act by Jimmy just to pull out that kind of material. And I think it's a profile issue as well for himself, just to get more hits on his Netflix.
And he is the sort of comedian who's always sort of prided himself on pushing the boundaries and being edgy and pushing that envelope a little bit further than everybody else. But the problem when you build a career on pushing the envelope and pushing the boundaries is there are almost inevitably times when you push it too far. Your firm belief is on this occasion he very definitely has.
I definitely do, Donal, because if you look at the millions and millions of people who are gassed and tortured in the Holocaust, the Roma community, there was an estimation around 500,000 to maybe to 1.5 million that was murdered. When you look at some of the documentaries on the Holocaust and the survivors and the trauma and the pain that they endured through their experience of the Holocaust, in the gas chambers, they've seen people murdered, seen children murdered. That's not a joke. That's definitely not a joke. I don't think millions of people's lives, were put into a shed and gassed, were children, and taken out and thrown into a hole. What's funny about that? I just it's not a joke. I don't see. I know that he tries to go on the boundaries and test the boundaries, but definitely this is beyond it and beyond a joke.
You say we need stronger legislation. How will that be affected? And to what extent do you believe the government here can control Netflix? Because we now have the situation where so much of our entertainment content is coming online. It's coming from outside. It's programmes recorded elsewhere, produced elsewhere, mixed elsewhere, and indeed broadcast from elsewhere. And we're receiving them through the ether online, as it were. It's making it more difficult, perhaps. Whereas if this was on RTE, it would be relatively simple if it's on terrestrial television to get it sorted. But when it's on the internet, it's just making it that more difficult. I mean, is this something you've looked into as to how could you get legislation that can effectively tackle something like this?
We have, and we've been advocating for the social media platforms, to have stronger legislation from our government in relation to, Google, in relation to Facebook, in relation to different platforms, Instagram, all them platforms where people can be very, very racist and avert comments about the travel community or the Roma community or people with disabilities or BMEs. So this just doesn't affect the traveller community. This has affected a number of other groups as well in terms of what they've been from an ethnic minority group. So around to tighten the legislation around this, that the kind of Jimmy Carrs and other people who use these platforms to propel themselves in their career shouldn't be allowed and should be prosecuted. Because, our government needs to look at the damage that this causes people inflicts, that racial comments has a social element to travellers on the ground, it has a social element to the Roma community on the ground and other ethnic minority groups. There's endure racist comments, discrimination practice by services, by the education system, by the pubs, the hotels. This has a decimating effect across society. It's not about a joke. It's about the acceptance of this joke. So people think it's morally okay to talk about the traveller community in a really derogative way, to talk about Roma in a really derogative way, to talk about BMEs in a really derogative way, because they see the pillars of society is not protecting ethnic and minority groups. So it's around. I can see that. Sure, Jimmy Carr said that. Our TV said that. So there's different arenas of that give way to people to allow that this is socially accepted, that it's socially okay to talk really derogative about other ethnic minority groups and travellers from Roma.
We know that there is a plan to bring in effectively a new regulator who will have responsibility for TV and for radio. For instance, Highland Radio will be under that regulator's auspices, but will also have responsibility for social media and have responsibility for streaming services. So from that point of view, perhaps we'll see the legislation that you want then, and we'll see more powers being given to that regulator that they can take effective action.
Yes, I think that'll be brilliant. And in relation to that, Donal, that there is a regulator and there is a complaints procedure and there is procedures there that eradicate this kind of behaviour, eradicate these kind of comments around, racism, discriminative practice, on the back of ethnic minority groups, and that's where a society that we want to live in. It wouldn't be socially accepted if he said that about single mothers, or he said it about, the white settled population. Something really derogatory about that. He'd be called out and he'd be apologised, public apology, and so there and so forth. And it seems to be in this country that when it comes to black and ethnic minority groups and Roma and traveller, we haven't got there yet. We had a few apologies around racist comments, but the legislation definitely needs to be tightened. It needs to be endorsed and backed by our government and implemented to these social media platforms, because people's found a new way now to be racist.
Eileen Flynn has made it quite clear that she's going to be pursuing this. I mean, you'd be hopeful, I'm sure, that senators and indeed TDs back her on that.
I'd be more, Eileen, Senator Flynn will pursue it, and we have looked at it, and we've, the Incitement to Hatred Act 1989 has been reviewed at this present time. COVID has kind of put the dampers in relation to, a lot of the procedures that was going forward, but hopefully now, Donal, that we're socially open to it. We'll be getting our head stuck into it again in relation to firstly meeting the government and meeting the parties at the NITRIS, which is the National Travel Roma Inclusion Strategy Committee that oversees a lot of the themes in terms of the travel and Roma community in Ireland, the strategy. So that's the place where we can make an influence and change to influence the senators and influence the TDs in relation to the Incitement to Hatred Act.
And finally, Hugh, we know that Netflix is being petitioned and being asked effectively to remove these comments from the His Dark Material performance that is still available on that particular platform. Are you getting any indication that Netflix will do so, and that we will see a slightly edited version of the programme put back up?
I think hopefully, Donal, that there's loads of complaints put on there at the minute, and hopefully Netflix will review it and revamp that Jimmy Carr's piece, and they can watch it on Netflix. But I do think that, as I said, it's a very hurtful piece. It's a very damaging piece, because the content of that, as I said, we're not talking about a few individuals. We're talking about millions and millions of people who are took to gas sheds and gassed, children, men and women. Doesn't matter what ethics it was on it, in terms of you being Jews, gypsies, traveller, Roma. Them people was gassed, and the survivors of that, if anybody watched the documentaries, it's really hurtful to see people who endured that, who embraced that, and come out to the end of it. But millions didn't. And if that's his tactic to propel himself on his platform, it's really, really, I'd say it's really disgusting.
Hugh Friel, Traveller Men Development and Health Worker with Donegal Travellers Project. Thanks indeed for speaking to us this morning.
Thank you, Don.
Hugh, take care of yourself. Bye now. And that's Hugh Friel there from the Donegal Travellers Project there. And that His Dark Material performance by Jimmy Carr on Netflix. The petition is to get that, at the very least, edited and changed. Callers called in. We spoke earlier about the regulations pertaining to co-opting a new member onto council. Caller says national regulations state where a local councillor resigns, retires or dies, their party nominates a replacement candidate. If an independent councillor dies, the local authority follows its own procedures as set out in its standing orders. So that's the legal situation as it stands. Caller says, I was in for an operation in Letterkenny but got the opportunity to go to Ballykelly to have it done quicker. I have to get a PCR test 2 days before. It's costing me €180 sterling. I can't have it done here, which would be free, and then bring the result. The test must be carried out in their place. Does anyone know a way around this? It's very expensive. Now, I know if you get a PCR test through the HSE, for instance, that's not acceptable for travel. And the reason it's not acceptable for travel is basically to stop important test slots for people who are showing symptoms being taken by people who basically need PCR tests because they want to do something else. So I know that's one of the major issues with PCR tests here. Now, whether you can get a derogation from that on the basis that I need a PCR test in order to have vital surgery, and that is, in fairness, that is very different to saying I need a PCR test because I want to go to Spain on my holidays. So I would have thought it should be possible to get some form of derogation and allow a HSE PCR test to be used in this instance. If anyone else knows anything more about that, certainly it's understandable that you cannot get a HSE PCR test and then use it to justify your travel. You have to get a private test done in that instance, and I think that's absolutely and totally correct, because we can't have these really important test slots being taken up by people who want to travel. A different situation for someone who is awaiting surgery. Caller says, did many listeners hear what Sean Fleming, the Fianna Fáil finance I think he's actually a junior minister. The person here says a finance spokesperson. He is actually, I think, a junior minister in the Department of Finance. His approach to the rising cost of living was to say, stop complaining and shop around. A person on over 100,000 plus tax-free expensive. What planet is he on? And there was a similar comment came in earlier as well. And we had someone asking earlier about crutches and recycling crutches. The Killybegs Women's Group are running a Belarus orphanage appeal, and they will gladly take crutches. Please check their Facebook page. Laurie is arriving in Killybegs on the 19th of February and leaving on Sunday the 20th. So if you have crutches that you want to recycle, the Belarus Orphanage Appeal may very well be the destination that you are looking for. It's 17 minutes past 11 o'clock.
Whether it's a smart meter to better manage your energy, plugging into a greener type of fuel, or something bigger, with Bord Gosh Energy, you can go your kind of green. Discover more at boardgoshenergy.ie. Bord Gáis Energy guarantees that 100% of the electricity supplied to you under green plans is sourced from renewable generation in accordance with the CRU Green Source Product Verification process. 10% green gas will be purchased in Europe from Guarantee of Origin certificates for green gas.
At Tesco, we're always looking for ways to make shopping easy for everyone. That's why we're giving one lucky customer the chance to win a brand new Nissan Qashqai. To enter, simply complete your first shop with click and collect on tesco.ie by March 6th. There's never been a better time to shop online. Book your free slot today. Tesco. Every little helps. Terms and conditions apply. Competition open to first-time click and collect shoppers only. Purchase required. Open to Irish residents aged over 18. Offer valid only until the 6th of March. For full terms and conditions, see tesco.ie.
The Donegal IFA County Executive are holding their annual general meeting online via Microsoft Teams this Wednesday, 9th of February at 8 p.m. Guest speakers will be Minister for Agriculture Charlie McConalogue and Ulster North Leinster Regional Chairman Frank Brady. All welcome. For invite to meeting, text your email address to Tom Boyd on 085 757 9026.
All children aged 5 and over are being offered a COVID-19 vaccine. Their vaccine will help to protect them, and the rest of the family too. The advice from the World Health Organization is that the COVID-19 vaccine is safe for children this age. So if you have questions about their COVID-19 vaccine, we have answers you can trust. To register or for information, visit hse.ie. From the HSE.
Highland Radio Time Checks, brought to you by Letterkenny Shopping Centre, the centre of shopping in Donegal. Free parking and shopping all under one roof. Letterkenny Shopping Centre, bringing you the time at...
And the time is 19 minutes past 11 o'clock.
Today's show is sponsored by the 3 Store Buncrana. Visit us in store for the best deals on high-speed home broadband and more. 3 for a better connected life.
Mary says, Hugh has spoken well. We are all equal in the eyes of God. And in fairness, Hugh has long been a very articulate campaigner for the travelling community in the Northwest, and long may that remain the case. Just had a note from Councillor Michael McClafferty to say, just letting people in the Falcarra area know that the bottle banks are being temporarily removed for about a month to allow for ongoing works to be done at their present location. They will be returned once those works are finished. The council has asked that people use the Gortha Hork or Dunfanaghy banks in the meantime. So that's just a note. Let us know that if you're in the Falcarra area and you notice that the bottle banks are removed, that's being done to facilitate work, and they will be back. It should take a month or so. Now, we're going to turn our attention to fetal alcohol spectrum disorder. And for most babies in the womb, they are essentially blank canvases. But for some, there are already writings on that canvas, and not necessarily writings that will have a good effect. We're joined on Zoom this morning by Tristan Casson-Rennie, who is the Director of Fetal Alcohol Spectrum Disorder, FASD Ireland, and he joins us on Zoom. Tristan, good morning.
Good morning, Greg.
Tristan, a lot of people will not be aware of what fetal alcohol spectrum disorder is. Tell us briefly about that particular condition and its cause.
Okay, well, essentially, it's caused by consuming alcohol either when trying to conceive or when pregnant. So the embryo and the fetus are very vulnerable to alcohol when it is consumed. The first place any substance that's consumed by a mother will go straight to the embryo or the fetus and then pass onwards to the mother's body, and then it's expunged. But essentially, any amount of alcohol that's consumed will go to that embryo or fetus.
Is it a matter of quantity, or is it a matter of, as you possibly suggested there, any amount of alcohol? Because you'll be told there's no harm in a glass of red wine every now and again. Is it an issue of the more that is consumed, the more the risk of FASD becoming an issue is, or is it anything being consumed can cause a problem?
It's literally, as you just said, it's anything, any amount of alcohol that you consume poses a risk. The HSE guidance currently states that no amount of alcohol is safe at any stage of pregnancy. And so that is a message that we absolutely need to get across to any person who is either considering starting a family or who is already pregnant.
Now, of course, obviously there will be many, many instances in which a woman may go out and consume alcohol in the course of a night out and not know at that point that she is pregnant. And, from that point of view, you are stressing that the organisation adopts very much a no blame or shame, only information and information support approach.
Yes, correct. I think we have to accept that society has accepted the drinking of alcohol for many, many years amongst women that are pregnant, to the point that, even as late as the 50s, Guinness and other forms of alcohol were handed out in hospitals to pregnant women to enable them to avoid the baby or themselves suffering from anemia. So as a society, we have to move on now, because we accept and we recognise the risks caused by consuming alcohol. And so that's why the message has to change. And we absolutely cannot focus on any blame or shame, because it was an accepted part of society that it would happen. And you're quite correct when you say that people will go out and they will have a drink and they won't know they're pregnant. That's a very common occurrence. And I guess that's why, the message from us and from the HSE and other organisations in Ireland is, if you are considering starting a family, that's the time that you need to stop drinking.
Latest figures that we have come from the World Health Organization in 2017, and I will be honest, I was very surprised to see that on the World Health Organization's figures for 2017, Ireland, of 187 countries, Ireland ranked third behind South Africa and Croatia. So that does suggest that it is a major issue in this country.
Absolutely, Greg. FASD is the most common neurodevelopmental disability in Ireland. It's estimated, again, and we have no up-to-date prevalence figures, but it is estimated that some 40,000 people living in Ireland have FASD. Now, not all of those will be diagnosed. Many of them will be undiagnosed or misdiagnosed, and that poses a problem in itself. There is currently no true pathway to diagnosis. It's a very complicated pathway that families have to journey through. And we as an organisation are working very closely with ministers in government to try to put a process in place that will allow families, young people, to be able to get a diagnosis which will help them to be able to live their lives independently.
And presumably there are variations in severity and also variations in the symptoms that may display, and indeed variations in the impact it may have on life into the future.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, FASD is an umbrella term that we use. It covers various, essentially, as it says, disorders, but it's most recognised with fetal alcohol syndrome. And one of the, there are 428 comorbidities with FASD, and one of the highest prevalence in that is ADHD. So it's very common in Ireland currently that if a child presents with ADHD, then that's the diagnosis they're given. And there's no further exploration to find out actually if they have FASD, which, to be honest, is really important, because it would open up how we support that child or young person through their school years and onwards into adolescence and adulthood.
And that then begs the question about the true numbers, because very often in cases like this, people will suggest, well, Ireland is third highest on a global list because Ireland has a good record in actually diagnosing FASD, and the chances are there are other countries where prevalence is far higher, and indeed prevalence in this country could very much be far higher as well than the estimated 1,600 babies born each year with it. So is this one of these instances in which we'll never really know the true number?
Yes, the figure that you have there is, I think, 600 babies a year, which was from 2017. Because of COVID, we understand that, well, we expect that number to have doubled, if not gone up a little higher, simply because people were stuck at home and there was very little to do, and alcohol intake did increase over the lockdown period. So, you know, I think that our organisation has three core strands. One is to prevent FASD, One is to support FASD, people with FASD, and the other one is to raise awareness across the country about FASD. And that's why programs like this, talking to you today, is very important to us. We desperately need to raise awareness of FASD because there are a minimum of 40,000 people living on the island with FASD, and many of those will be struggling, young people in school and adolescents, and then people in their 20s, 30s and beyond that will be struggling to be living independently. And it's really important that we start to recognise this disability so that we can address it and provide necessary supports for people.
The response to this in certain ways may have to be tailored to families as well, because as we said, inevitably and sadly there can be instances where effectively the person with FASD may be looking at their mother and saying this is your fault, or the mother may be looking at them and and feeling guilty because they feel it's their fault, and it's that it goes back to the blame and shame discussion that we had earlier, that there are nuances to this particular discussion that perhaps need a particular targeting and need a particular response, maybe even in terms of counselling.
Yes, it's probably one of the most difficult conversations to have, in that very often the full appearance of FASD arrives at the age of 10. And so a primary school typically would start to have difficulties with a child's behaviours and attention and focus in class. And of course, beyond the age of 10, we have transition to post-primary secondary school. And really, it's a case of that if we haven't got the diagnosis at primary level, we're going to struggle when we get into secondary level for support of the child. So that conversation is very difficult. How do we go about, and it's something we have to think long and hard about, how do we go about identifying first and foremost the children that are of concern, and then having that conversation with the birth family to be able to say, can we talk about how the pregnancy was? Can we talk about, your recollection of when you were drinking, when you were smoking, if you were taking drugs, for example? When did you last do that before you found out you were pregnant? Can we explore that a little bit more? So that's a whole conversation that needs to be had, and it's about working together with the Department of Education, the Department of Health, Department of Social Welfare, the Department of Special Education and Inclusion. We have to work across all of those ministries and bring them together, because FASD affects so many different facets of life. We know of those children. It's an interesting exercise for every head teacher or deputy head to do. Given the prevalence is again estimated at 4.75, if you took a typical high school of 700 students, then you'd be looking at somewhere in the region of 28 to 30 of those students having FASD, just based on prevalence. I've done an exercise with a teacher where I've asked them to walk around school and identify individuals just to themselves, no names, and they said that they didn't realise actually that they had those children in the school, but once it was highlighted to them that FASD existed and was a known about condition, and that they'd raised the awareness of it, then they were easily able to identify those students. So again, as an organisation, we run regular workshops for both parents, families, carers, teachers, health professionals, to be able to learn about FASD. And I believe our next one is the 11th of March, where we're running a 2-hour workshop, which is an introduction to FASD. So if anybody's got concerns about their child, or a child that they're looking after, or a child that they come into contact with, then I'd urge them to get onto the workshop and just find out a bit more about FASD. We obviously have the website as well that people can refer to.
And the website is fasdireland.ie.
Yes, it is.
And that's the best way for people if they want to get in contact with you, or they want to learn more about this. fasdireland.ie is probably the best pathway to do so.
That's certainly our website. We also on Twitter, so very often Twitter's a great way for people to get in touch with us if they have just a quick sort of question and answer. And we're also on Facebook and Instagram. So hopefully, there's plenty of ways that people can get in touch with us.
Tristan, thanks indeed for speaking to us this morning. Tristan Cassenrenny there, Director of FASD Ireland. And as we say, fasdireland.ie is the website there on Twitter and social media as well. Tristan, thanks very much indeed. And that's Tristan. And that was the FASD discussion. And it's a discussion, I think, that is going to continue for quite some time. It's 28 minutes to 12 noon. Into the last half hour of the programme. Let's take a short break. Back after these.
Do you currently have vacancies that need urgently filled? Have you tried various ways to find new staff but didn't succeed? Let Highland Radio help you source and fill your current vacancies in the most cost-effective way. Simply sign up to our new job spot and we will tell our listeners about your vacancies both on air and online. Every Monday, Wednesday and Friday during our primetime shows, we will broadcast the latest job opportunities across the Northwest and into counties Derry and Tyrone. All job listings will be available online at highlandradio.com. For more information, contact the advertising team on 07491 25322 or email advertising@highlandradio.com. Highland Radio, we're here for you.
Treat yourself or a loved one to a Clarence gift of beauty from McGee's Chemist Letterkenny. Purchase 2 Clarins skincare products, one to be a moisturiser or serum, and you'll get a choice of 4 treat-sized essentials from a selection of 8, together with a gorgeous cosmetics bag. Which 4 will you choose? Available while stocks last, in store at McGee's Chemist Letterkenny and online at mcgees.ie, where the best costs less.
Valentine's is fast approaching, and what better way to celebrate with a romantic 3-course meal and glass of Prosecco at Backstage Bar and Grill. Our Valentine's menu is running all weekend from Friday the 11th to Monday the 14th of February. Call Century Complex on 07491 21976 to book your table.
At 3, we have an amazing range of broadband offers to keep you connected. Switch to 3's high-speed home broadband for just €39 per month and get 3 months free with no upfront cost. Visit the 3 store Buncrana for this offer and more. Subject to coverage, T's and C's apply. Today's 9 till noon show is sponsored by the 3 store Buncrana. Visit us in store for the best deals on high-speed home broadband and more. 3 for a better connected life.
Caller says, regarding the person having to get a PCR test in Ballykelly, I was to do the same, but they accepted a PCR result from a recognised company that I used. I still had to pay €99, but that's better than 180 sterling. Caller says, Jimmy Carr has made jokes about absolutely everyone, including single mothers and the wider general public. Offence is taken, the caller says, offence is taken and not given. The caller says, I am a bouncer at a nightclub and, I agree racist abuse is not acceptable, but it works both ways. So says our caller. Now, you may have noticed, and I have certainly noticed, that there has been, it seems, an increase in sea swimming at all times of the year, and I have got several friends who do it myself, and I see them posting up pictures of them coming out of the water in the middle of the winter, and it sends a shiver up my spine, to be bluntly honest. But there are many people who absolutely love it. Joe Joyce is the PRO with the Lough Swilly RNLI. Joe, good morning.
Good morning, Donal.
Joe, you're a man who would know the waters around Inishowen better than most. You're seeing a lot of sea swimming, and by and large you think it's a good thing, but people need to be careful.
It is a good thing, particularly over lockdown. A lot of people have partaken in it, are starting to see the beauty of what we have around us. It's become a very big social thing. It's very good for you. There are some dangers associated with it. It's really about a lot of common sense, but an awful lot of people are doing it. You pass the car park there, and a lot of people there having coffee, having a sandwich after their swim. So yeah, it's a positive, I think.
Well, one of those who is doing it quite a bit recently is Marion Simpson. Marion, good morning.
Good morning.
And Marion, I don't know if you and Joe know each other, but you're certainly not that far away from each other because you're doing your swimming at Luton.
Yeah, that's right, and I do know Joe. I started swimming in July 2020, going in with my grandchildren, and I absolutely loved it. And then 4 ladies joined me, and we took it from there. We swam every day and right through the winter, and then gradually other people joined us, and We have now 65 people on our WhatsApp group and in our group coming and going at different times.
Now, it's quite clear from what you've said in the message you sent us that you're doing so responsibly. You have a WhatsApp group and you get everything organised. You work with the tides and you're being quite careful. And that's a point that's been made that, you know, with sea swimming, you know, there are potential risks. And it certainly seems you and your group are taking the responsible approach to it.
Yes, it's understood that no one goes in alone, that there's always somebody going in with them. We're very careful when the tides are quite high and also when the tides are very far out as well, when the tide's going out. So we do put up the tide time every week, and we know during the beginning of each week what's a good and sensible time to go.
Joe, it must be heartening to you to hear someone like Marion speak in that way, because it's clear that, you know, she's doing this the correct way.
The ladies there are doing great work. It's a big social thing, and, you know, people maybe that would be afraid to go and swim on their own. There's a great group there. There's another group at Ned's Point that join them. You know, it's you go there, you go in, they put up the timetables to watch the tides. They're swimming parallel to the shore. There's certain places that are very safe to swim. Ludden Beach is very safe, one of those spots. When they come out, then they wrap up fairly quickly, and they have their coffee and tea, and it's a big social thing as well. It's very good for your mental health. So, you know, it's a very good positive.
Would the first piece of advice then, from your point of view, Joe, be to say to people, look, become involved in a group, and whatever you do, don't go out there on your own?
It's not a good. Anything under 15 degrees is deemed to be cold water. And the temperature rarely gets above 15 degrees here. Even in the summer, it just runs around about 12. So immersing in cold water, if you're not used to it, if you don't acclimatise yourself to it, has some serious effects. You can suffer from a thing called cold water shock. That's when your body goes into the cold water. You're not used to it. You spasm. You can inhale water if you're submerged. It gets into your lungs, and it can cause some serious medical problems, and you can possibly drown. It can minimise your effect. The blood vessels contract in your arms. Your ability to move and your ability to control what's happening is greatly undermined. So you just do need to be careful. So if you are going in, as Marion says, look at the tides, check the weather forecast. Go with a group if you can. Tell somebody where you're going. Tell them when you're back. Have some warm stuff for when you come out, and be ready for when you come out. Watch the wind chill. If possible, swim parallel to the beach. Have an exit point as well as an entry point, and just be aware of the situation and take local advice. If you're not familiar with the area, take local advice, because the locals always know where the good places to swim and where the bad places to swim are. And most importantly of all, if you or anyone else gets into difficulty at sea, ring 999 or 112, contact the Coast Guard. The Coast Guard are the specialist. We're very lucky here in Donegal. We have an excellent team at Mallinhead, and all of Donegal is very well equipped with RNLI personnel and with Coast Guard personnel, and there's a great overlap. So, you know, we're really well covered as a county, and those are the things to look out. Keep yourself safe, enjoy it, and I think you'll have a bit of fun.
Marion, I love the way you've described yourselves. You say you're swimmers in the summer, but you're toe dippers in the winter.
Yeah, well, the summer undoubtedly much more conducive to staying in a bit longer. But as Joe says, the temperature now in the water's down to approximately 8 degrees, and it's recommended that you stay only 1 minute for every degree of the water. So we could be in and out in 5 minutes.
Now, you do go in, and this is the bit that really amazes me, because, as I say, I have friends who do it quite regularly, but it seems to me, judging by the pictures they're putting up on social media, they're mostly going in wetsuits. You go in swimsuits, but with swim boots and socks on.
Yeah, it's just the way it started. We started going in the swimsuits, and then one day actually did lead to another. We never intended to be swimming through, going into the water in the winter, going in when there's snow on the ground. But one thing led to another, and it just was amazing and was a great lifesaver throughout lockdown last year, and it brought some of us through very difficult times as well.
It's great to hear that, 64 people in the group now, Marion, and all 64, I'm sure, don't always go out together. But I mean, there's going to be a group going out every day, and fair play to you for doing that, and fair play to you for doing it sort of safely. And is it something, Marion, you would recommend to people? I mean, do you feel better for doing this? Now, I must be honest, I am sitting here and I'm thinking, go into the water off Donegal in the winter, not on your Nelly. And I must say, I have nothing but admiration and respect for people who do.
Well, to be quite honest, I can't recommend it enough. There's whenever one goes into the water, the first couple of minutes are, the mind takes over. It's cold and the body sort of feels a bit. But then once that initial few moments are over, the rest then it's just amazing. And it took me 10 years actually. I thought about it for 10 years before I actually went into the water, and I really cannot recommend it enough. But it's like this, it really needs to be experienced. I could talk to you all day about it, but unless one goes in and actually experiences it themselves, that's when you really understand.
If I'm going into the water in the summer, my way of doing it, to be honest, is I stand about 20 or so metres away from the shore. I run like the clappers and I dive in and I get the short, sharp shock, and that's it, then it's done, and then you can swim away. Now, it's grand to be doing that in July. I take it that's not the way you'd be doing it in the cold water of January or February.
No, definitely not. We take it very gently. We toe dip for a little while before we actually go in, and then gradually and breathe, and we're all encouraging each other, and we're chatting and laughing, and then there could be a bit of song. We have a few good singers there. So it's very gradual, and we sort of go in a little bit sideways as well, so that we're not getting the onslaught of the cold just straight onto our chest. We have an age group from teenagers to 70 plus, and each one is very appreciative of where each and every one of us are at the level of ability and everything else.
And Joe, what Marion has just said to us there, and I'm going to give the final word to you. I mean, that's really indicative of the proper way to do this. I mean, have a strategy, have a way of doing it, but don't expose yourselves to that shock, that cold shock that you can get. And it's one thing to jump into the water in the middle of July, but you're not going to be doing that in the winter.
No, definitely. Gently ease yourself in, splash a bit of water on your body, on the back of your neck, on your face. Just gradually acclimatise yourself to it. Like as Marion says, the boots on the feet, gloves on the hands, bathing suit that you have on. Very important that you have a coloured hat or something that we can easily pick you up in the water. And then swimming floats are a great aid too if you are doing a bit of swimming. And just be careful, enjoy it. And as Marion says, it is really exhilarating. Runners will talk to you about the release of endorphins, and you definitely get that when you're cold water swimming. It is very, very exhilarating and very addictive.
Well, Joe, thank you indeed for the advice, and Marion, fair play to you, and thank you for, you're a huge advert for it, and it's great to know that you and your colleagues are really getting an awful lot out of it. Joe Joyce and Marion Simpson, thanks indeed for speaking to us this morning.
Thank you.
It's our pleasure. That's Joe and Marion there. Joe from Lochswilly Lifeboat and Marion, part of the group that swims at Ludden. And they had swum an inch for a while, but there's more about in Ludden. And the main thing to remember there is, first and foremost, and Marion says it in the note that she gave to us, no one swims alone. And if you follow that advice, you can really reap the benefits of swimming in the seas, even off Donegal.
Need a new part for your Ford car or van? Why not call to OMS Auto Parts in Buncrana? With a massive stock of Ford parts, you're sure to get the part you need. Free next day delivery on orders over €50. Call 074 936 1924 or shop online at omsautoparts.ie.
The Groom's Room at Evolve Clothing in the Letterkenny Retail Park has the best value and selection in suiting for your wedding day.
Are you worried about trees on your property? Northwest Forestry Services Ballybuffet are fully insured and have over 40 years experience in dangerous tree removal, tree felling, surgery and stump grinding. For peace of mind, call Northwest Forest Services Ballybuffet for a no obligation quotation on 913233.
Your specialty is quality tiles, bathroom suites and wooden floors. Who is the best range of tiles in Donegal?
Crawford Tiles.
The best wood flooring?
Crawford Tiles.
The best bathroom suites?
Crawford Tiles.
5-day bathroom refits?
Crawford Tiles.
And who's been tampering with my questions?
That'll be me.
Crawford Tiles, Castlefin. That'll be them. 07491 43942.
You were sitting on a busy train. An elderly woman got on, and even though you were tired, you gave her your seat because it's in your nature. You know who you are, but we don't. Please get in touch and become an SVP volunteer today. Visit svp.ie. Thank you.
Highland Radio weather updates with Ireland West Airport. Discover Edinburgh this summer with Ryanair's 3 times weekly service. Stunning architecture, endless winding streets and an awe-inspiring castle. Ireland West Airport. You're flying.
Really a mixed bag in terms of weather today. Sunny spells and scattered showers of rain, sleet and some snow over hills and mountains. Highest afternoon temperatures 7 to 9 degrees Celsius. Moderate to fresh, occasionally gusty southwest winds. Scattered showers along the coast will occasionally penetrate inland. Tonight we'll see lowest temperatures of 1 to 3 degrees Celsius, coldest around dawn with some frost and icy patches possible. Light to moderate southwest to west winds increasing fresh to strong and gusty. There will be sunny spells tomorrow with scattered showers along the coast, some of sleet and possibly snow on hills. Highest temperatures tomorrow a little bit lower than today, 5 to 7 degrees Celsius, fresh to strong and gusty southwest to west winds. Now you'll have heard that Sinn Féin held a meeting to discuss issues in Carrigart last night, and they're putting forward many suggestions. We're joined on the line now by Councillor Liam Blaney, a Fianna Fáil councillor who also has been working a lot in Carrigart, and he says the council has been very proactive there already. Councillor Blaney, good morning.
Good morning, Donal.
You're delighted to see your colleagues in Sinn Féin taking an interest in Carrigart, but you're just making the point that there's been action taken there already, and more is to come.
Well, I'd like to see anybody at all taking interest in it. The more the merrier, and the better chance we have of getting things done. But I just want to say that there has been ongoing issues up with speeding around the school in Carrigart, and we tried different things there to try and help to slow traffic down. And anybody that travels through that area will know what the speed van is there very regular now this last while again. And but at the beginning of last week, I got a couple of calls about speeding within the town itself, Carrigart. And I raised it at our roads meeting last Tuesday. And I have to commend the council for being so proactive, and the speed in which things has happened since that. They have put up numerous speed signs, repeat speed limit signs in Carrigart. They have begun, I think it was last Friday, they've undertook a traffic survey, and that'll go on for at least a week. I've asked them that maybe they would repeat it again in the summertime whenever there's being it as a seaside resort or a town beside a seaside resort, that there'll be a lot more about in the summertime. So I've asked that they would repeat that in the summertime again. But whatever that throws up, that traffic survey throws up, they will do whatever is in their power to try and see if they can alleviate whatever problems.
And that is an important point. And that is an important point you make, because I mean, very often we'll see decisions taken based on the surveys that are conducted in January or February, and as you rightly say, figures that will be gained in a traffic survey in January and February will bear no relation whatsoever to what's going to be on the roads in Carrigart come June, July and August.
Yeah, certainly so. But the other side of it, Donal, could be because there's so much traffic around the town of Carrigart in the summertime, and anybody's down that direction in the summertime will understand this, that there'll be very little issues with speeding in Carrigart because the town is jammed with traffic and they can't get speeding in it, and maybe it might throw up more issues now in the winter time than the summertime. But either way, we want to compare both anyway. But it's just a matter of fact of having the facts, and anything that these facts do throw up, at least you have proof to say, look, this is the reason why it's been done. And look, the council plenty of times gets bad publicity, but I have to say the speed in which this has happened, and I have to commend them for that.
In terms of the Garda response, and the council will of course be in contact with Gardaí through the JPC and those lines of communication, is it a case where there needs to be more Gardaí visible in the Carrigart area? Because the reality of it is, and you mentioned speed vans already, but nothing is going to stop speeding more efficiently than the sight of a squad car.
Well, if the traffic survey throws up that, Donal, I'm quite sure it'll be acted upon. And there was an issue with vehicles coming up from the Shore car park up through a wee slip road that takes you out onto the square. We got the light moved to the end of that wee road and a wee ramp put up the end of it to try and slow down in case there was a complaint there that the children was getting a few near misses of getting knocked down because there's a wall there and the car came up, couldn't see them, but there's a ramp there to make that happen. And any other issues that is under the remit of the council, but there is a speed limit in the town at the end of the day, and it is an enforcement issue. And if the garage has to enforce more, we'll see does the traffic survey throw that up or not.
You're confident that once we get the results of that particular traffic survey, they will be acted on quickly?
Anything that's under the control of council, I will ensure that I will do all I can, and I know from the way they've acted already that they're willing to go and do anything they can as soon as possible to try and alleviate any problems that throws up.
Councillor Liam Blaney, thanks indeed for speaking to us this morning.
Thanks, Donal.
That's Councillor Liam Blaney there speaking to us about Carrigart and that traffic survey taking place, and we'll see what comes out as a result of that. A letter has come through to us, and I always say it's lovely to see letters coming through. And the letter says, Dear Greg, we hear you often shining a light on people's problems. We would like any advice on ours from you or your listeners. We're two pensioners. My husband has cancer. We have a mortgage which our lender has offered us a settlement deal from €110,000 to a one-off payment of €50,000. Is there any lender that would deal with pensioners? And now, what I would say to the caller, and I certainly would not offer any financial advice, particularly in a specialised area like this, what I would suggest is if you could speak to a financial advisor and show that financial advisor the documents that you have from your lender, because a financial advisor will be able to give you the sort of advice that you need. I certainly wouldn't presume to. And I think it's that sort of area where, rather than taking general advice from someone who might know a little bit about it, my inclination would be to go to a financial advisor who is independent and show them the documentation and let that financial advisor, let he or she give you their perspective on it. And I certainly wouldn't presume to give any advice. But we wish you all the best with that, and especially all the best to your husband as well, and hopefully the health is good. So the only group that people don't lose the rag over when constant jokes are made is women. A local business, we're told, is advertising Valentine's hampers with cleaning materials in it for a Valentine's gift. So no jokes about anything or anyone, but women are a fair target. So asks a listener. Yep, we've just done that. This is an interesting one now, and I must confess I would not be one of these people. A study has found 40% of people believe that they're the best driver they know, because one new study says 40% of adults think they're the best driver they know. The research also found 42% worry about driving in the dark, especially on foreign or unfamiliar roads. The poll, conducted by One Poll on behalf of a booking company, found the typical person has taken about 7 road trips in their lifetime. 61% of respondents claim they would only go on a road trip if they didn't have to drive. Now, I am not the best driver I know. I can tell you that from the off, and if we ever go on a long trip, I can also tell you that it is my wife who will be far more likely to be the driver than me, and that is the absolute honest truth of it. Dry January was in, but vegan January was out, according to our spending habits. Cantor, that monitors such things, has reported record-breaking sales in non-alcohol drink, with 7.6% of Irish households purchasing alcohol-free beverages last month. In contrast, the impact of vegan January was much more muted, with households spending €481,000 less on frozen vegetable options and vegetarian options compared with this time last year. That's interesting. Now, I find this whole thing with your non-alcoholic drink, I have to say, in my experience, the taste of non-alcoholic drink has improved so much in the past couple of years. And I think really in the past, I would say in the past 3 years, the taste of whatever it's. There must have been some form of breakthrough somewhere. But non-alcoholic lagers in particular, and I know there's non-alcoholic stout at the moment. That was heavily advertised in the rugby at the weekend, and that is getting rave reviews too. But certainly the non-alcoholic lagers, in one instance, there's one major brand, and I honestly cannot tell the difference between the alcoholic version versus the non-alcoholic version. And it's a surprise, but that is the situation, and I think that's partly due. And there is one wheat beer I drink actually, and I tend to actually buy the non-alcoholic version rather than the alcoholic version, because the non-alcoholic version is absolutely lovely, and I'm actually choosing it over the alcoholic version, not because I will be driving, because I won't be, because I will be most likely sitting down having it while watching Midsummer Murders on TV, but the reality of it is it actually tastes better than its alcoholic counterpart. And that's really great to see, I will say. That's the 9 till noon show for now. It's been a pleasure as always. Thank you very much indeed. Thanks to all our contributors, especially thanks to Karen Orr, who took your calls, who produced, and who, as always, kept me on the straight and narrow. John Brennan is next, coming up around the northwest. But for myself, Donal Kavanagh, have a very good day.
If you're buying new tyres, contact Auto Fast Fit in Letterkenny. Get great grip and great brands at prices to suit every budget. Tow bars also supplied and fitted for cars and commercial vehicles.